Hokage I can only draw S-rank rewards. Chapter 221-240. Chapter 221_arrange. Let's go. What? While Koharu Udatane was still dumbfounded, Homura Mitokado couldn't wait to jump out. Lei Luo, although you are Hokage, you do not have the power to dissolve the elders. Lei Luo looked cold at Homura Mitokado, who jumped out. When he was dealing with Danzo himself, he had proposed that Tsunade dissolve the elders. However, Tsunade had just assumed office not long ago, and for the sake of the stability of the village, there was no way to move these two old guys for the time being. But it's been so long now, I didn't expect that Homura Mitokado could still see the situation so clearly. They should have learned from Sarutobi Hiruzen long ago, and retire, and take care of their grandchildren at home. Isn't it good to take care of them? Those who have been reluctant to bear these powers and positions in their hands have been half dead to the ground and have been occupying their positions. So Homura Mitokado heard Lei Luo say coldly, "Oh, I have no power, so who has power? At the beginning, your elders were established by the third-generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, so what's the problem with me revoking him now?" Homura Mitokado looked at Lei Luo's cold eyes, and then he remembered how strong the man in front of him was. This is the man who defeated Uchiha Madara by himself. After all, after getting hit with infinite Tsukuyomi, they were all immersed in their dreams. They didn't know what happened behind Uchiha Madara. They only knew that Lei Luo defeated Uchiha Madara and won the Fourth Ninja War. Just now, I was carried away by the news that Lei Luo had disbanded the Elders group, but now I calm down when I look at Lei Luo's icy eyes, and I can't help but feel scared for a while. Forget it, I'm old enough to disband, Homura Mitokado thought to himself, and then the whole person slumped, feeling a little older again. Then he looked at Lei Luo and said, "I'm sorry, Lord Hokage, it was just an old man who made a false statement. I agree to disband the elders." Lei Luo heard Homura Mitokado's words, the cold expression on his face relaxed, and a warm smile appeared on his face again. Then he said to Homura Mitokado, "It seems that Elder Menyon is still very righteous." He turned to look at Koharu Udatane and asked, "Elder Koharu, do you agree to disband the elders?" Lei Luo spoke. Koharu Udatane couldn't wait to reply, "Yes, I also agree to disband the elders. I've been thinking about retiring for a long time, and now it's time to enjoy myself." Homura Mitokado's performance just now, and naturally she wouldn't touch Lei Luo's bad head again. "Ha ha ha, very good, two elders, please rest assured. Although the elders group has been disbanded, the village will still take care of you." Lei Luo said with a smile, "The sedan chairs are carried by everyone. Since these two people are so acquainted, Lei Luo will naturally not be stingy with a few good words." "Okay, everyone has no objection to the previous ones, so I'll move on to the next one. Article 4. Since Elder Menyan has abdicated, his position as Minister of Finance will naturally have to be inherited. Do you have any suitable candidates?" Homura Mitokado listened to Lei Luo's words this time, and has no reaction. He already knows that he has lost power in the village, and naturally he will not try to die again. After all, no one can protect him now. Lei Luo glanced around, and Kakashi finally spoke. "Lord Hokage, for the position of Minister of Finance, I choose Chief Nara. The Nara family has their own business in medicinal materials, and they are not unfamiliar with finances. Moreover, the Nara family are all highly intelligent people and are suitable for this position." Nara Shikaku, the head of the Nara clan, heard Kakashi's words, and his squinted eyes suddenly widened. "I have no friendship with Lei Luo, why did Kakashi suddenly recommend him?" At this moment, thousands of answers flashed through Nara Shikaku's mind. In fact, it was entirely because Nara Shikaku thought too much about it. When Tsunade was in power, Lei Luo had always been a salted fish with peace of mind, and had nothing to do with the major families in the village. The reason why Kakashi recommended him is the same as what Kakashi himself said. there are not so many twists and turns at all. This is also a common problem that highly intelligent businessmen may have. They always think too much about one thing. If this is a simple-minded person like Naruto Little Lee, he would have happily agreed. After listening to Kakashi's words, Leiluo lowered his head and thought about it. Nara Shikaku is indeed quite suitable, so let him. So Leiluo looked up at Nara Shikaku and asked, Patriarch Nara, what do you think about Kakashi's proposal? Nara Shikaku looked at Leiluo and asked him, and knew in his heart that Leiluo had decided to make him the Minister of Finance, and now he had to accept it. After all, the Ino-Shika-Cho tribes have always been staunch supporters of the Hokage faction, and now it is not impossible for them to be the Ministers of Finance, but it is a little troublesome. So, Nara Shikaku said, since Lord Hokage doesn't dislike it, then Shikaku is willing to serve as the Minister of Finance. Watching Nara Shikaku agree, Leiluo said with a smile, haha, then the financial work in the village will trouble you, Minister Shikaku. Then Leiluo continued to say to the crowd, then I'll talk about the fifth item now, which is also the last item. Everyone listened to Leiluo's words and listened attentively. The first four arrangements were already big changes in the village. This last one is usually the most important, isn't it even more shocking? Then everyone heard Leiluo say, Article 5 is actually nothing, that is, while I was away from the village, all the work in the village still had to be handled by Master Tsunade for the time being. How is it, Tsunade-sama, is there any problem? The expressions on everyone's faces froze all of a sudden. I didn't expect this last one to say this. Tsunade responded quickly and replied, okay, I thought I would be able to relax for a few days, but I didn't expect this to be handled by me. Leiluo, you didn't plan this time, did you? When you come back, there is nothing to deal with in this village. After listening to Tsunade's words, Leiluo laughed and replied, if there is nothing, what plan can I have? These are coincidences, just coincidences. Okay, everyone, that's all I have to say. If there is nothing else, everyone can leave. The village is very lively today, everyone can go for a walk. When everyone heard the words, they resigned one after another and left the Hokage office one after another. 3 days later, Leiluo set off for the capital of the Land of Fire with his Hokage escort. Chapter 222-I want the whole country of fire. Although it is said that with Leiluo's strength, there is no need for Hokage escorts at all. But after all, this is the tradition of Hokage, and it is also a platoon. It is impossible to see the great name of the country of fire, and Leiluo will go alone. Leiluo's Hokage escorts are all acquaintances. The captain of the Hokage escort was chosen as Hitaki Kakashi, who has now successfully transplanted Uchiha Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan. Then the remaining players are Senju Nawaki, Uchiha Shisui, and Uchiha Itachi. This lineup is luxurious. 1 Mokuden wood style and 3 Mangekyo can drive Susanoo, and this Hokage escort can easily destroy a small country. Leiluo and his party galloped all the way, and they arrived at the capital of the country of fire within a few days. Looking at the familiar and majestic city in front of him, Leiluo couldn't help but sigh. The last time I came to the capital of the Land of Fire, it was Leiluo who came as Tsunade's escort. It's been so many years now. After entering the city, Leiluo did not look at the hustle and bustle of the city, and walked directly towards Daming Mansion. Who are you? The guards at the Daming Mansion looked very arrogant. Although they were just ordinary samurai, they also saw that Leiluo and his party were ninjas. But they obviously felt that they were not ordinary warriors, and they didn't care about the identities of Leiluo and his group. After all, the daimyo was the person with the highest status in the country of fire, and no one would act wild in the Daming Mansion. It's a pity that they saw the wrong person this time. Crack! Leiluo directly slapped the doorman and turned the doorman several somersaults. When the guard of the Daming house got up from the ground again, his face was swollen, and a trace of blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. "Who the hell are you? Do you know where this place is?" The guard obviously still didn't see the current situation clearly, and wanted to frighten Lei Luo away. Lei Luo wouldn't get used to his troubles, so he slapped him again when he went up, giving him a left-right symmetry. "Keep your dog's eyes open. Remember, I am Hokage Lei Luo, the current 6th generation head of Konoha Hidden Village. Don't you hurry in and report." The Daming Mansion guard got up from the ground, glanced at Lei Luo, and ran into the Daming Mansion. The other guards were just about to shoot, but when they heard that Lei Luo was the 6th generation Hokage, they all pretended not to see anything. At this time, in the Daming Mansion, the Fire Nation's daimyo was reading a book in the study, and suddenly found a person with swollen cheeks like a pig's head walking in. "Who are you? Is there any rules? Get out of here. This is the first time I've found such an ugly person in the mansion. How did the housekeeper get this kind of person into the mansion?" The Fire Nation daimyo looked at this man with disgust on his face. "His Royal Highness, I am the guard of the Daming Mansion. When you saw me, you praised my perseverance, youth and vigor. I'm like this now because I was beaten by someone else." The guards of the Daming Mansion howled and cried mournfully, making people think that he had suffered a great deal of grievance. After listening to the doorman's words, the Fire Country daimyo looked at it carefully, and found that it was indeed the outline of the previous doorman, so he believed his words. "I saw the Kingdom of Fire's Daming frown, and asked with anger, who is so bold, who dares to act wild at the gate of the Daming Mansion?" The guard at the Daming house quickly replied. He said he was the 6th generation head Hokage, the new successor of Konoha, and he seemed to be called Lei Luo. The Fire Country daimyo, who was still angry at first, heard that Lei Luo was the one who did it, and the anger in his heart was even stronger, but not at Lei Luo, but at the doorman in front of him. The Fire Nation daimyo stood up from behind the desk and kicked the half-kneeling guard down with one kick. "Why would you go and provoke him? Why didn't he kill you? Useless waste. Don't get out of here quickly, and invite Hokage 6th generation in. There is still some B number in the heart of the famous name of the country of fire." Knowing that Lei Luo's strength is strong, he should win over him. After all, this is the man who ended the 4th Ninja World War by himself. And according to his information, Lei Luo's strength may have surpassed that of the god of ninja, Senju Hashirama. He knew that people with such strength would definitely not care about his name. Now that Lei Luo is here to report, it's enough to entertain him. The guard who was beaten was a little stunned, but he still knew what he should do from the words of the daimyo. I saw the guard quickly get up from the ground and run out. Yes, Your Royal Highness." After all, although the guards at the Daming Mansion looked a little miserable, Lei Luo really didn't do anything hard. Otherwise, in terms of Lei Luo's power, a slap might directly blow the guard's head. Soon, Lei Luo and the others followed the doorman to the door of Daming's study. Logically speaking, the study room could be regarded as a private space. The famous name of the Kingdom of Fire should meet Lei Luo in the reception room, not the study room. But the reason why the daimyo of the Land of Fire asked the guard to bring Lei Luo here was to show his closeness to Lei Luo. Unfortunately, he didn't know the real purpose of Lei Luo's coming here this time. "Kakashi, Naoki, you guys just wait at the door, I'll just go in by myself." Lei Luo turned his head and said to the Hokage guards who followed behind. "Yes, Lord Hokage," the crowd responded in unison. Even if everyone is familiar with it, Lei Luo is not a person who cares too much about rules, but in such formal occasions, due etiquette should still be followed. Then Lei Luo walked straight into the Daming study. "His Royal Highness, Hokage-sama has arrived." The doorman is obviously a lot more disciplined now, and respectfully said to the big name behind the bookcase. The Fire Nation daimyo raised his head and said softly, "Okay, you go down first." "Yes." The guard of the Daming house exited the study. "His Royal Highness, I am Lei Luo, who just succeeded the 6th generation of Hokage, and this time I am here to report on my work. Lei Luo said righteously, holding a neither humble nor arrogant attitude. The Fire Kingdom daimyo didn't care about Lei Luo's attitude at all. With a gentle smile on his face, he pointed to the seat next to the desk and said to Lei Luo-kun, please take a seat. I'm very relieved to have you in the position of Hokage. If you need anything in the Konoha village, just speak up. Lei Luo was a little surprised when he looked at the big name. He originally thought that the big name was a parasite full of brains and fat intestines, but he didn't expect this big name to be very self-aware. But Lei Luo came here with a purpose that must be achieved. His Royal Highness, I want the whole country of fire. Chapter 223 Take control of the land of fire. After hearing Lei Luo's words, the big name of the Kingdom of Fire suddenly froze the smile on his face. Lei Luo-kun, are you kidding me? Lei Luo shook his head slightly and said, His Royal Highness, I have no intention of joking with you. The existence of daimyo is no longer suitable for the development of the land of fire. Ninja Village and Daming Mansion should be integrated and should not be separated. The face of the big name of the country of fire changed instantly. Lei Luo, what are you trying to do? An elusive smile on his face, Lei Luo said, didn't I say it all, I want the whole country of fire. If you are obedient, you can still be your puppet name. If you don't accept it, I think some of your sons will. After hearing Lei Luo's words, the famous name of the Kingdom of Fire wanted to shout loudly, but unfortunately, when Lei Luo entered the room, he had quietly set up a barrier to isolate the sound inside, and people outside could not hear any movement. The Fire Nation's daimyo shouted a few times and found that no one responded. Even though he wanted to get up and run outside immediately, he found that he could no longer move. I saw a rope condensed by light appearing on the daimyo of the Kingdom of Fire, which was the binding path used by Lei Luo. Bound Dao can be released without singing, but the power is 30% lower than that of singing, but it is enough for him to be unable to struggle in the face of a person like the Fire Nation Daming who has no power to tie a chicken. Lei Luo, you bloody bastard, let me go. The Fire Nation's daimyo kept struggling and roaring, but unfortunately it was all in vain. His Royal Highness, don't be so excited, think carefully about my proposal. Lei Luo looked indifferent, looking at the name of the country of fire and said indifferently. Impossible, I will never be a puppet. The famous name of the country of fire said angrily, but suddenly stopped and stopped talking. Because when the Fire Country daimyo was talking, Lei Luo seemed to be playing with his fingers. There were flickering light spots on the fingertips, but they kept going out. It looked very beautiful, but the Fire Country daimyo felt cold all over. He knew that the Hokage in front of him had a limit of light and blood that had never appeared in the ninja world for hundreds of years. Perhaps for ninjas, the power of these light spots on Lei Luo's fingertips is just a small trauma at most, but for the powerless daimyo of the Land of Fire, it is fatal. His Royal Highness, think about it, is there any deviation in what you said just now? Lei Luo had a gentle smile on his face, but his eyes were indeed cold. The name of the country of fire knows that now Lei Luo is definitely not trying to scare him. If he doesn't agree, Lei Luo will really do it. The room was quiet for a while, and after a long time, the Fire Nation's daimyo seemed to have finally figured it out. Cough cough. The famous name of the country of fire coughed twice, feeling a little thirsty in his throat, and wanted to reach for the teacup on the desk, but found that he still couldn't move. Only then did he realize that he was still being tied by Lei Luo. Lord Hokage, the Fire Country's voice was a little hoarse, I agree with what you said. From now on, the Fire Country will be dominated by Konoha Village, and I will issue orders later. Ha ha ha, that's right. A smile suddenly appeared on Lei Luo's face, his fingers moved slightly, and the rope of light on the Fire Kingdom's body was untied. Don't worry, His Royal Highness, you are still a big name, this will not change. Everything I do is for your own good. You work hard every day for the fire country, why bother? From now on, leave these things to me, and you can just enjoy yourself. The big name of the country of fire trembled, took a sip of the cold tea on the desk, and wet his throat. Hearing what Lei Luo said, Daming of the Kingdom of Fire was full of grief and anger, but he didn't dare to refute, so he could only hold it in his heart. Oh, yes, there is one more thing. Lei Luo said suddenly. What's the matter? The Fire Nation's name stared at Lei Luo and asked. Lei Luo smiled and replied, It's not a big deal, it's just that I put a seal on you just now. Everything about today, you can't say it in front of anyone but me. Otherwise, the seal will be triggered, and at that time it will take your body as the center and pull everyone around you into the broken space. Hearing the words of the Fire Nation's famous name, but immediately returned to normal, he said, Don't worry, Your Excellency Hokage, I have written down everything you said, and I will not regret it. That's good, that's good. Lei Luo stood up with a smile, His Royal Highness, then I'll retire first, and look forward to your order in the future. Then Lei Luo turned around and walked out of the study of the famous name of the Kingdom of Fire. The moment he walked out of the door, he removed the barrier that he had arranged before, leaving no trace. There was only one person left in the study, the famous name of the Kingdom of Fire, with a gloomy face, wondering what he was thinking. Lord Hokage. The Hokage guards outside the door greeted Lei Luo respectfully when they saw Lei Luo come out. Lei Luo said with a smile, Thank you for your hard work. I was discussing some things with His Royal Highness Daming just now. It may have been a long time, but fortunately everything went well. It's not hard, these are what we should do. The Hokage escort replied quickly. The Fire Nation daimyo in the bookcase snorted coldly when he heard the movement outside the door, but didn't say anything. Okay, let's go. After discussing for so long, His Royal Highness is tired, and we should leave. We will stay in the capital these few days. If you want to go out, you can go for a walk. Lei Luo said and walked out of Daming Mansion. Yes, Hokage-sama. The Hokage escort hurriedly followed behind Lei Luo. And the famous name of the Kingdom of Fire in the study knew that Lei Luo's last words were actually addressed to him. Lei Luo meant that he hoped to hear his orders before he left the capital. Alas! The famous name of the Kingdom of Fire let out a long sigh, feeling that he was getting a little older, and now this situation can only be done according to what Lei Luo said. So after several days of quarrels in the next Fire Country court, the Fire Country daimyo implemented his new order with a tough attitude. From now on, the Fire Country daimyo has become the symbol of the Fire Country, and the domestic military and political affairs are all in charge of the Hokage of Konoha village. This policy is like the policy of a country called England that Lei Luo saw in his previous life. The royal family retains status and preferential treatment, but loses power. At the moment when the daimyo order of the Kingdom of Fire was officially signed and issued, Lei Luo received a system prompt. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the mission, serving as Hokage and successfully controlling the country of fire. Congratulations to the host for getting the quest reward, God level lottery point *1. Chapter 224-9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan. When Lei Luo heard the system prompt, a smile appeared on his face. God level lottery points are never too many, and now I can strengthen my strength again. Maybe by the time Otsutsuki Momoshiki and the others come, Lei Luo may be able to slap them to death. System, come out quickly, I want to draw a lottery. Lei Luo called out to the system in his mind, and now there is time, so hurry up and draw this prize. When the system heard Lei Luo's call, there was no dabi, just a ***** flew out. After a while, it was fixed in Lei Luo's mind, and the prizes above were S-level skill, Heaven and Earth Furnace. S-class item, 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan. S-class weapon, Zanpakudo. S-class equipment, Mo Lei Luo's secret code. S-class items, Devil Fruit * Childlike Fruit. S-level skill, Sun Yanyao Madara. Lei Luo felt very calm, and he no longer had the excitement he used to be. Sure enough, people grow and change. Lei Luo sighed in his heart, lamenting his growth and changes. The Forge of Heaven and Earth has appeared last time, and I have no interest in Zanpakuto and Devil Fruit Lei Luo. Even if the childlike fruit comes with the effect of eternal youth after eating it, it is not attractive to Lei Luo. But if you really get it, it's not impossible to give it away, but it feels like this fruit is really tasteless. Fortunately, the remaining 3 prizes are still worth seeing. 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan, this eye Utsutsuki Kagaya has, is the eye located between Kagaya's eyebrows. This reincarnation Sharingan clearly includes 2 basic abilities, one is, Infinite Tsukuyomi, and the other is, the Imperial Palace of Heaven, both of which are very useful abilities. As for other abilities, it will only be known after integrating with the individual. If Infinite Tsukuyomi is used on a single unit, it should be regarded as the strongest demonic illusion along with Koto Amatsukami. After all, as long as the caster does not remove it, the people in the demonic illusion will always be addicted to the demonic illusion, and disturbing the chakra will also nothing works. And the Royal Palace of Heaven is even more incredible. If you count the starting ball space, you have a full 6 spaces under your control. With Lei Luo's mind, the setting of this space should be stronger than Kagaya. Mo Lei Luo Secret Book. This is a piece of artifact equipment from the world of League of Legends, or it can be said to be a secret book. As equipment, it can produce effects when placed in the system space, which can enhance the power of ninjutsu by 10%, and also comes with a special effect of serious injury. In the state of serious injury, any medical ninjutsu effect will be greatly reduced, unless there is a purification skill to remove this negative effect first. And if he took it out from the system space, he could look at it as a secret tome. It was said that it recorded all the secret techniques of the world destroyer Mo Lei Luo. The name of this piece of equipment matches Lei Luo very well, but for Lei Luo, his role is not as big as that of 9 Tomo Rinnegan. Sun Yanyao Madara is the ability from the Goddess of Dawn in the world of League of Legends, which can summon a beam of the sun, bombarding the enemy with scorching and terrifying power. It is difficult for an enemy to survive this move. After all, the temperature of the sun shining on Madara can be very terrifying. Moreover, after the Master's ability, he can also absorb a certain amount of solar energy to strengthen himself, which is also a very powerful ability. Lei Luo didn't bother to look at these prizes. I was lucky to get it and lost my life, and everything was just fine. System, start the lottery. Following Lei Luo's order, the system ***** rotated rapidly, then stopped slowly, and finally settled on the prize. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining an S-class item, 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan. Well, not bad, at least it's very useful. Lei Luo was still very satisfied with the prizes that appeared. Although he actually prefers the ability of Madara in the prize, he can absorb the energy of the sun to a certain extent to strengthen himself. But the ability that this 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan comes with is also pretty good. Dear host, do you fuse the 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan? The system asked Lei Luo in its mind. Since it was obtained, it must be integrated, and Lei Luo immediately chose to integrate. Dear host, please choose the fusion location of the 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan. At this moment, a picture of the meridian structure of the human body appeared in Lei Luo's mind. Looking at the sturdy fifth limb, this should be himself. And several of the acupuncture points shone with golden light, indicating that they were suitable for installation in the system's calculations, and now he needs to choose. Shedding point, the one between the eyebrows, is the same as Kagaya and can be used as an alternative. Tanjong point is located in the center of the front of the chest cavity. It is too inconvenient to install an eye in this position. Do you have to take off your shirt every time you fight? Chihai point, this seems to be in a better position than Tanjong point, but it's not much better. Is it too shameful to wear a navel-bearing outfit in the future? Let's look at the remaining Baihui points, Mingmen points, Yang Izumi points. These are the major dead points of the human body. The position selected by the system is indeed very important, but it is not suitable for installing eyes. With so many choices, there is no choice at all. System, fuse the 9-tomo samsara sharingan on the Shenting cave. When the system merged with the 9-tomo samsara sharingan, Lei Luo felt that he was cracked, and this was not an illusion, it was really cracked. I saw a gap between Lei Luo's eyebrows, among which was the 9-tomo samsara sharingan, which is now closed, but Lei Luo can control it to open at any time. Now I'm going to cause Erlang Shen, and there is no sense of disobedience at all. Lei Luo couldn't help but complained about himself inwardly. The original 2 eyes were still normal black eyes, but there was an extra eye between the eyebrows, which really looked like Erlang Shen. Now that the fusion is successful, let's see what capabilities it has. Lei Luo carefully sensed the 9-tomo samsara sharingan in Shenting cave, and found that as expected, after the fusion, in addition to the basic infinite Tsukuyomi and Tianjiyuzhang, a new ability was born based on Lei Luo's own ability. Using this ability, Lei Luo can control and absorb the power of the sun to fully strengthen himself, and when using it, the Brahma light behind the legendary God and Buddha will appear behind Lei Luo. This Brahma light is not just an ornament. This Brahma light is actually a channel for the conversion of solar energy into Lei Luo's body, and it is also a very solid shield that can resist attacks from behind Lei Luo. The name of this ability is called the Great Sun Tathagata. Chapter 225-change. Space Channel. The Great Sun Tathagata. It's really good ability. I was a little disappointed because I didn't draw Sun Yanyao Madara. I didn't expect that the ability of the 9-tomo samsara sharingan would have the same effect. Lei Luo's face was full of smiles, and now he felt comfortable. Now, if Lei Luo enters the form of a great Buddha and uses the Great Sun Tathagata, it will really be like a god and a Buddha in the world. But at this moment, Lei Luo suddenly noticed that the sun in the sky seemed to flicker for a while. Most people probably thought it was an illusion, but with Lei Luo's sense of the sun, he was sure that it was not an illusion. The only thing that can cause the sun to change is the moon. Lei Luo's eyes narrowed. He suddenly remembered that there are descendants of the Otsutsuki clan in the ninja world. On the moon, there are descendants of Otsutsuki Kagaya, the son of Otsutsuki Kagaya and the younger brother of the Six Paths sage, Otsutsuki Hamura. The change in the sun just now was probably caused by the huge Tenseigan on the moon. Has the current Otsutsuki Shirin been able to control that giant Tenseigan? It seems that we have to find the passage between the earth and the moon. The unstable factors in the ninja world should be solved. Lei Luo muttered. After all, this Otsutsuki Shirin is not a peace messenger, but a person with the idea of destroying the world. After the death of Otsutsuki Hamura, the descendants were divided into 2 factions because of their different understandings and interpretations of the last words of their ancestors. Among them, the branch thinks that the world created by the Six Paths Immortal has been chaotic for thousands of years, and it is a failure and should be eliminated. Then use Tenseigan to destroy the main clan people who advocated peace at that time. And Otsutsuki Shirin is the descendant of the branch, living alone in a castle in the moon, monitoring the earth. I wonder if Kagaya wants to see Hamura's descendants. Lei Luo returned to Konoha village first. Even if he wanted to go to the moon, he was not in a hurry. He still had to go back to the village to make arrangements. After all, now he is not only under the jurisdiction of a Konoha village, but the entire country of fire. At this time, Lei Luo was in Hokage's office, checking some important things that happened in the village when he left these days. After reading it, Lei Luo found that there was basically nothing important, but the number of tasks actually increased by 10% compared to before the Fourth Ninja World War. It seems that people still trust Lei Luo as Hokage's Konoha village. Knock knock knock. There was a knock on the door. Come in. Lei Luo replied with a reply, then looked up and saw a man walk in. So it's Shikaku, what's the matter? The person who came was Nara Shikaku, the patriarch of the Nara clan, the current minister of finance of Konoha village, and the father of Nara Shikamaru in the 12 Little Strong. Lord Hokage, according to the order from the capital, will we, Konoha, be responsible for the affairs of the Fire Nation? Was a hint of sadness between Nara Shikaku's brows. Lei Luo originally thought it was something, but it turned out to be this thing. Don't worry about Shikaku. In fact, the country of fire has not changed much from before. The city lords are naturally responsible for local affairs. The only thing that has changed now is that His Highness the Daimyo no longer manages things, but Hokage, which is me, Prime Minister nationwide. The structure of Konoha village will not change much. After all, our thematic attribute is still the country's military power. Lei Luo said this. Nara Shikaku understood the current situation, and the sadness between his brows disappeared. Originally, he thought that the country of fire was going to undergo a major change. What if other countries started a war when the country of fire was changing? Although the countries formed the Ninja World Alliance together before, the relationship between the countries was not so harmonious. Unexpectedly, he was just a false alarm. In fact, it's not that Lei Luo doesn't want to reform, it's just that he's not good at these things, but he also knows that these things can't be rushed. Some ideas and experiences in previous lives will inevitably affect him. However, the situation in this world is different and cannot be generalized. But since Lei Luo is in this position, he will naturally do something. It's all a matter of time. Lord Hokage, I understand. Nara Shikaku replied respectfully, keeping his position straight. Then Nara Shikaku continued. Then Hokage-sama, if you have nothing to do, I will go first. Lei Luo nodded and said, it's nothing, Shikaku, you go down first. Then Nara Shikaku left the Hokage office. Soon 3 months passed, and the overall framework of the Kingdom of Fire, Lei Luo, was finally sorted out. During these 3 months, Lei Luo met with major city lords from all over the country of fire, as well as some former high-ranking nobles. The vast majority of them accepted the new policy and the rule of Lei Luo. But it is inevitable that some people who do not open their eyes and refuse to accept control think that ninjas are just a group of mud legs, and they have no qualifications to rule this country. He even shouted in front of Lei Luo, asking Lei Luo to give up his position. For such people with underdeveloped heads, Lei Luo will not be accustomed to them. It's just that they pity their relatives, and they have to accompany them to the peaceful underworld. And during these 3 months, Lei Luo also did one thing, which was to instruct Konoha Anbu to investigate the Earth-Moon passage. According to Lei Luo's memory of the possible locations of the Earth-Moon passage, Namikaze Minato personally led the team to look for possible places. Because Namikaze Minato is good at time and space ninjutsu, if there is a passage, Namikaze Minato must be able to perceive it. And quat, whoosh, and quat. A figure suddenly appeared in Hokage's office, wearing an Anbu uniform black robe and a fox-faced Anbu mask on his face, but his blonde hair revealed his identity. Minato, you're back, how are you? Lei Luo asked with a smile looking at Anbu in front of him. That's right, it was Namikaze Minato who led the team to find the space between the Earth and the Moon. Since Minato appeared here, it means that the Earth-Moon space should have been found. Sure enough, Namikaze Minato looked at Lei Luo and said, Lei Luo-kun, this time I found a space passage, but I didn't go through the passage to probe, so I'm not sure if it's the one you're looking for. Now I've left a small team of Anbu there to keep watch in case anyone gets in by mistake. Very good, Lei Luo said with a smile. Minato-kun, thank you for your hard work. Anyway, I have to trouble you to take me to where the passage is. Namikaze Minato lowered his head and replied, it's your duty, Lei Luo-kun, you are too polite. After that, Lei Luo arranged the affairs in the village. Tsunade was called to the top by Lei Luo again, and he couldn't help but complained a few more words. And then Lei Luo followed Namikaze Minato to the location of the space passage. Looking at the blue lake in front of him, Lei Luo felt a touch of familiarity. It seemed that this place should be. Then, Lei Luo jumped directly into the lake. Chapter 226 Otsutsuki Sharon. After passing through the lake, he directly entered the space passage, and then Lei Luo transformed into light, and a few flashes passed through the space passage. Looking at the palace and pavilions in front of him, Lei Luo knew that he had come to the right place. This is exactly the palace complex where Otsutsuki Shiren is on the moon. Now there should be only Otsutsuki left on the moon. Lei Luo thought while looking at the somewhat lonely palace. Afterwards, Lei Luo directly turned on his 5-vision omnipotence, observed the surrounding situation, and found that his position should be at the edge of this palace group, and Otsutsuki Sharon must be in the center of this palace group. So Lei Luo stepped forward and walked towards the interior of the palace complex. In the central palace of the Moon Palace Group. As expected by Lei Luo, Otsutsuki Sharon was indeed in the central palace, and in front of Otsutsuki Sharon suspended a huge blue-white sphere with a strange beauty. It was not until the viewing angle was zoomed out that the huge blue-white sphere turned out to be an eye, which was the huge Tenseigan that merged with the birth of Byakugan on the moon. Lei Luo guessed right at the time. The flash of the sun at that time was due to the fluctuation caused by Otsutsuki Sharon's inability to perfectly control Tenseigan. At this time, Otsutsuki Shiren also found this uninvited guest on the moon. This person should have come from the Earth-Moon passage. I didn't expect anyone to discover this passage. Otsutsuki thought to himself. Although his eyes are only empty sockets, but he can control this huge Tenseigan and still see Lei Luo. It's a pity that he doesn't know who Lei Luo is and how powerful he is. So he didn't care at all, just controlled a few puppets to deal with Lei Luo, and the most important thing for him now was to perfectly control the huge Tenseigan in front of him. Then you can leave for the journey to find Hinata in the ninja world. When Shiren was a child, he followed his father to the world of ninjas, and meted Hinata in the unique way of the Otsutsuki clan. He thought she was cute and made her a candidate for his wife. Of course, a large part of the reason is that Hinata has Byakugan of extremely high purity, which may be limited to Otsutsuki main clan women, who are called Princess of Byakugan by the dead souls of Shi and the Otsutsuki clan, and are the best candidates for wives. When he married Hinata, he would start a world annihilation plan to destroy this ninja world that was constantly fighting and failing. At this time, Lei Luo also found several figures rushing towards him through the 5-vision omnipotence. After a closer look, he found that these were puppets. It seems that Otsutsuki has already discovered me, so it's just a little warm-up. Lei Luo's mouth curled into a smile. He wanted to see if the puppet on the moon could compete with the best in the ninja world. Puppet Technique, Sunagakur Village Comparison. Soon, the puppet appeared in front of Lei Luo and launched an attack directly at Lei Luo without saying a word. Lei Luo grabbed his right hand in the air, and Hirinmaru appeared in his hand, easily blocking the move. Feeling the power of this puppet attack, Lei Luo was a little disappointed. Originally, he was wondering if he could fill Konoha with another puppet army, but he didn't expect that there was only this power. Since there is only this strength, what is the use of keeping him? Breath of Water *1 form *water surface / Lei Luo waved his hand and slashed out a fierce frost blade, instantly severing all the puppets in front of him and freezing them in place. After eliminating the puppet in front of him, Lei Luo flashed directly towards the central palace. Seeing the strength of these puppets, he was no longer in the mood to accompany Otsutsuki Shiren to play the routine of killing the soldiers first and then the boss. Moreover, even if Otsutsuki had control of the huge Tenseigan, in Lei Luo's eyes, he would be considered an elite monster at best, not a boss. In the eyes of Otsutsuki Shiren, only seeing the flashing light, he found that Lei Luo had come to the hall where he was. Otsutsuki Shiren's expression finally changed. He stood up and turned his head to look at Lei Luo, who appeared behind him. Who the hell are you? Lei Luo didn't care about Otsutsuki's wife at all, and stared straight at the huge Tenseigan. What a moment of beautiful eyes. Lei Luo's eyes, and he has fallen in love with this eye. At this time, Lei Luo remembered that Otsutsuki Shirin seemed to be talking to him just now. Oh, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Lei Luo still looked polite. But Otsutsuki Shirin was already a little angry because of Lei Luo's performance just now, bit Kiba and replied, I ask who are you? Lei Luo smiled and replied, oh, so that's what you asked. Don't be nervous, you and I are still relatives. Otsutsuki was taken aback by the words, and then he asked, are you from the Hyuga clan in the ninja world? Lei Luo shook his head and replied, no, I don't have a family. But I am the stepfather of your lunar Otsutsuki ancestors. Lei Luo's words, Otsutsuki Shirin couldn't bear it any longer. He even insulted his ancestors and attacked Lei Luo directly. But what he didn't know was that what Lei Luo said was actually the truth. Now that Otsutsuki Kagaya has become Lei Luo's woman, Lei Luo is indeed Otsutsuki Hamura's stepfather. I saw a green laser shot directly from Otsutsuki Shirin's hand towards Lei Luo. This move not only devoured the enemy's ninjutsu, but also remotely extracted the opponent's chakra while penetrating the opponent's body. But for Lei Luo, these are little tricks. I didn't expect you to play lasers in front of me, so let my ancestors teach you how to use lasers. Lei Luo looked at the green laser shot towards him calmly. The 9-tomo Rinnegan on his forehead suddenly opened, and the green laser that had already reached him disappeared. It has been incorporated into the space in the Imperial Palace by Lei Luo. After all, with Lei Luo's current strength, you don't need to hide the 9-tomo Rinnegans, just take them out and use them. Now, no one has the courage to come to trouble Lei Luo. Senpo, Sage Art, Light Escape, Laser Cannon. Then he saw Lei Luo instantly enter the Sage mode of the three immortals, and when he raised his hand, a sturdy laser blasted towards Otsutsuki Shirin. Otsutsuki Shirin felt the dangerous aura coming from the laser, and instantly entered the Tenseigan chakra mode. Green chakra enveloped the whole body, and several green light Gudodama truth-seeking ball appeared behind him. This Gudodama truth-seeking ball was instantly condensed in front of him under the control of Otsutsuki Shirin, forming a shield that blocked Lei Luo's attack. Yes, let's try this trick. Chapter 227 _ Let People Die. Senpo, Sage Art, Light Escape, Burning Heaven. In an instant, a sea of golden fire spewed out of Lei Luo's mouth, filling the entire space in front of him. The overwhelming sea of fire attacked Otsutsuki Shirin with scorching temperature. The airwaves visible to the naked eye continued to spread, and the space seemed to be distorted. Otsutsuki had no choice but to use Gudodama truth-seeking ball again to form a shield in front of him. Then he saw the green light on the shield of Gudodama truth-seeking ball, which absorbed all the golden sea of fire. Even though Otsutsuki Shirin didn't have much combat experience, he knew that he couldn't be passive like this anymore. When you see a move, you can only passively be beaten, and you must put the initiative in your own hands. So after the Gudodama truth-seeking ball shield absorbed the golden sea of fire released by Lei Luo, Otsutsuki Shirin instantly launched an attack on Lei Luo. The Art of Psychic. Following Otsutsuki's charisma, a huge stone statue was summoned. Looking at the appearance of the stone statue, it looked like the legendary Otsutsuki Hamura. Lei Luo looked at the summoned stone statue without any worries. If I knew earlier, I should have brought Kagaya to see if this stone statue looks like Otsutsuki Hamura. Lei Luo thought with great interest. But it doesn't matter, this stone statue seems to be able to recover even if it is broken, as long as Tenseigan's possession is immortal. Let's try the power of this stone statue first, and then seal it up when he recovers. It's not impossible for Kagaya to see it later. Just when Lei Luo's thoughts drifted away, Otsutsuki Shirin had already controlled the Hamura stone statue to attack Lei Luo. Boom! Hamura smashed Lei Luo with a punch, but Lei Luo had already reacted in time, and disappeared in a flash of light, avoiding the attack of the statue of Hamura. It's just a pity that the palace was damaged a lot under the attack of the Hamura stone statue, but this is not Lei Luo's own, and Lei Luo doesn't care. Even if Lei Luo solves Otsutsuki's renunciation and wants to build a moon palace on the moon in the future, all these palaces must be demolished and rebuilt. Now it's time to warm up and carry out some demolition work together. That's right, Lei Luo never took Otsutsuki Shiren to heart. For him, the battle with Shiren was always just a warm-up, even though Shiren had that huge Tenseigen. And although Otsutsuki Shiren didn't know what Lei Luo was thinking, he didn't care about these palaces either. His own plan was to control the moon to land in the ninja world and destroy the world, so how could he care about these? Otsutsuki saw the figure of Lei Luo flickering to the other side, and controlled the Hamura stone statue to continue to attack Lei Luo. And when Hamura stone statue attacked, he shot several green light Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, to attack Lei Luo one after another, blocking all directions where Lei Luo might dodge. Oh, this is a good move, it even cooperates. Lei Luo had a smile on the corner of his mouth. In Otsutsuki's eyes, the whole space was blocked, which was just a joke to Lei Luo. Void walk. Lei Luo lifted his leg and disappeared directly in place, reappeared and came behind Otsutsuki's body. Be careful. Lei Luo's voice suddenly sounded behind Otsutsuki Shiren, causing Shiren to tighten, then turned around instantly, and threw a green light Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, shuriken directly at Lei Luo. But Lei Luo easily blocked Shiren's Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, shuriken with higher Inmaru, but did not immediately attack Shiren. After all, I haven't seen Tenseigen's most famous Silver Reincarnation Blast and Golden Reincarnation Blast. Otsutsuki looked at Lei Luo with a very nervous expression. These short battles made him know that Lei Luo is very strong. If he didn't use Silver Reincarnation Blast and Golden Reincarnation Blast, it would not be Lei Luo's at all opponent. And he also saw that Lei Luo knew him very well, but he didn't know anything about Lei Luo. So Otsutsuki couldn't help but look at Lei Luo and asked, "Who are you?" And Lei Luo's expression has not changed. He kept smiling and said, "Didn't I tell you just now? I am really your ancestor's stepfather." Otsutsuki was even more angry when he heard the words. He didn't expect the person in front of him to be so obsessed, so he couldn't help snorting coldly. Humph. Then you die. For him, who controlled the huge Tenseigen, he didn't think that someone in the ninja world could surpass him. Even if Lei Luo's attack was so strong just now, he didn't think he was his opponent. Silver rotation explosion. Under the control of Otsutsuki Shiren, the pupil power of the huge Tenseigen poured out. Then he released a number of Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, from the palm of Otsutsuki Shiren's right hand, and then rotated these Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, with both hands. And while Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, is spinning, Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, is covered with a layer of green chakra, forming a green halo, and then a huge tornado is launched from the halo directly towards swept over by Lei Luo. But at this moment, Otsutsuki Shiren realized that the surrounding space had changed, turning into a sea of golden light, and the figure of Lei Luo had disappeared. The huge tornado generated by the silver's rotation and explosion raged in this sea of light, but after all, it was powerless to dissipate. And this made Shiren a little confused. Where he is now. This place has nothing but golden light, and there is no difference between the sky and the earth, which makes him feel like he has been suspended, losing his perception of the outside world and the control of the direction. In fact, the space where Otsutsuki Shiren is now is one of the spaces controlled by Lei Luo's Heavenly Imperial Palace. There is really no concept of sky and earth in this space, there is only light here. In this space, Lei Luo can integrate himself into the Sea of Light. It can be said that as long as the Sea of Light does not die, Lei Luo will not die. Shiren, give up resisting. As long as you hand over this huge Tenseigen, I will not make it difficult for the ancestors. Lei Luo's voice came from all directions in Guanghai, and people couldn't find his place at all. But Otsutsuki Shiren was convinced of one thing, that Lei Luo was indeed still in this space. Since you don't come out, then I will directly destroy this space. The golden wheel is reborn. Under the control of Otsutsuki Sharon, all the green Gudodama truth-seeking ball coalesced together to form a giant golden Gudodama truth-seeking ball lightsaber. Even this golden Gudodama truth-seeking ball lightsaber is more dazzling than the sea of light in front of Otsutsuki Sharon. Then, under the control of Sharon, the lightsaber slashed down fiercely. This huge power, the entire sea of light was split from the heavy metal, and this light space trembled. But after all, it stabilized under the control of Lei Luo, and Lei Luo appeared behind Otsutsuki Sharon. The higher Enmaru in his hand had pierced Otsutsuki Sharon's heart. I've seen all the power of this huge Tenseigan. You can die in peace. Chapter 228-5 years in a flash. Future. Otsutsuki, who was pierced by Lei Luo, has no chance of survival. Otsutsuki Sharon felt as if he had been drained of all his strength, and could no longer maintain his body. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he couldn't. PFF'd. Lei Luo pulled higher Enmaru out of Otsutsuki Sharon's heart, when blood burst out from the heart wound, adding a fresh Yuhi color to the bright sea of light. After that, Otsutsuki Sharon collapsed weakly, leaving only the huge Tenseigan on the side floating quietly. I'm sorry, your thoughts are too dangerous. There can't be such an unstable factor in this ninja world. Looking at Otsutsuki Sharon's body, Lei Luo thought to himself. After all, Lei Luo is not Naruto, and he doesn't have such a strong mouth. He doesn't think that his words can make Otsutsuki change his mind. Therefore, the best way to eliminate this unstable factor is to kill him. Otherwise, one day Lei Luo was still sitting at home, and the moon would fall from the sky. Now that Otsutsuki Sharon has been eliminated, and the giant Tenseigan has been obtained intact, the purpose of Lei Luo's trip to the moon has been achieved. Whoosh! The scene changed, and Lei Luo returned from the Gwangi space in the Imperial Palace to the ruined palace complex on the moon. Looking at the huge stone statue of Hamura still standing in place, the 9 Tomo on Lei Luo Shenting Cave took a reincarnation Sharingan, and then he was taken into the space in the Imperial Palace of the Sky. It doesn't matter whether it is to let the village study the puppets later, or to control it for the person who owns the Tenseigan in the next moment. Looking at the lunar palace complex that had become silent again, Lei Luo turned and walked towards the Earth-Moon passage. It's time to go back. The Land of Fire, Konoha Village, Hokage Building. Lei Luo finally returned to Konoha Village and officially started his life as Hokage. The huge Tenseigan Lei Luo obtained from the moon also gave it to Otsutsuki Kagaya, although Otsutsuki Kagaya was the ancestor of Byakugan, but did not awaken Tenseigan. When Lei Luo released the giant Tenseigan from the Gwangi space in his heavenly imperial palace, Otsutsuki Kagaya felt the throbbing of his Byakugan when he saw it. When Lei Luo said to give her this huge Tenseigan, Kagaya sweetly said thank you to the master, and couldn't wait to start absorbing the pupil power in this huge Tenseigan. Under the stimulation and catalysis of this huge Tenseigan pupil power, Otsutsuki Kagaya's Byakugan finally completed the evolution and became his own Tenseigan. And the light blue light on this huge Tenseigan was already indistinct, almost returning to Byakugan's state. But Lei Luo didn't care. After all, to deal with the three of Otsutsuki Momoshiki, only Kagaya could have enough combat power, and the others were still weaker. Now that the overall situation has settled down, it is finally time for Lei Luo to settle his own affairs. On this day, Lei Luo had just returned home from the Hokage building, but suddenly found that Yuhi had taken the initiative to run into his bedroom to find him. Yuhi, what's the matter? What's the matter? Lei Luo looked at Yuhi and asked with some doubts. Kurenai, Yuhi said shyly through Yuhi's ears. Lei Luo-kun, didn't you say you were going to get married after the war ended? After speaking, he lowered his head, not daring to look at Lei Luo again. At this time, Lei Luo also noticed the breath of the other three women outside the door and said, "You all come in." Then looking at the four women sitting in front of him, he couldn't help but blame himself a little. After all, so many years have passed, and now there are four beautiful women waiting for him. Lei Luo sighed and said, "Thank you for your hard work, waiting for me for so many years. Marriage, we get married. I'll make arrangements tomorrow." He finally decided to marry Azuki Yugao, Kurenai Yuhi, Nohara Rin and Otsutsuki Kagaya. To this end, Lei Luo held a grand wedding, and the other four major countries and countless small countries sent people to watch the ceremony. After all, Lei Luo is the actual controller of the Fire Nation. With Lei Luo's fighting strength, he fought heartily all night, and finally achieved the achievement of being slept together. He finally became a married person and truly has his own home in the world of Hokage. Time flies, and 5 years have passed in a flash. After the wedding, Lei Luo did not indulge in the gentle village. Although he said that creating life is a must, but he also started his final plan at the same time, unifying the ninja world. However, if unification is carried out through war, it will inevitably cause great trauma to ordinary people, and the trauma of this battle is not so easy to eliminate. So, Lei Luo finally decided to replicate his operation of controlling the Land of Fire. With Lei Luo's strength, he could naturally sneak into the mansion of the daimyo without being discovered, thus successfully controlling the identity of the daimyo. And these big names did not disappoint Lei Luo. Not a single big name had the idea of dying generously. In order to save their lives, they all became puppets controlled by Lei Luo. And under the control of Lei Luo, the road of reform started from top to bottom, and the unification of the ninja world was carried out. In the end, the 5 countries merged, and the original 5 big countries established the Council of Elders, but the Council of Elders basically had no ability to actually control it. The one who really controlled the country was the standing committee set up under the Council of Elders. This standing committee is composed of 5 shadows from the original 5 countries, and Lei Luo, who is Hokage, naturally became the chairman of the standing committee, truly controlling the 5 countries. Then, under the pressure of the 5 major countries, other small countries also joined in, and the daimyo of the original small countries retained certain preferential treatment and became leisurely aristocrats. The ninja world is finally unified. In the end, under the discussion of the standing committee, the reunified country was named Wano Country, which means a united republic. And good things come one after another. Lei Luo finally had a child of her own. Maybe it's because of Lei Luo's strength, or maybe it's because of Lei Luo's physical problems. After marriage, he has been working hard, but it is difficult to sow seeds in the 4 fields. This makes Lei Luo wonder if he is no longer of the same species as the 4 daughters, and there is reproductive isolation. But fortunately, Huang Tian paid off. Lei Luo's hard work finally paid off. In the end, it turned out that Otsutsuki Kagaya became pregnant first. Following her pregnancy in October, Otsutsuki Kagaya gave birth to a baby girl. This baby girl was born with extraordinary talents. Looking at the light blue eyes that opened, she was born with Tenseigen. And there is a slight gap on the forehead. Lei Luo has seen that the unawakened Samsara Sharingan, and the physique of this baby girl has Lei Luo's unique light attribute. Lei Luo laughed while holding the baby girl, happily named her the Future, and then held a big banquet. But just as Lei Luo was celebrating, 3 figures suddenly appeared outside the Earth's space. Chapter 229 Momoshiki 3 Attacks. Is that right here? Cold words came out of one of the men's mouths. I saw that this man had pale skin, long gray hair, and 2 hard horns in the shape of rabbit ears at the back of his head. He was dressed in white, and it was Otsutsuki Momoshiki. That's right, Senpai, Kagaya is here. In reply, this man was also a man, with pale skin and long gray hair, wearing white clothes, with 2 lump-shaped horns, and carrying a yuhi-colored glowing fish basket on his back. Exactly Otsutsuki Ura style. There was also a giant man with locks floating beside the 2. There was a horn-like object on his left eye, and he didn't look at it. This person was Otsutsuki Kinshiki. This time, the three of them came together to bring Kagaya back. Then let's go and find the rat Kagaya, who I didn't expect to hide for so many years. Otsutsuki Momoshiki gave an order, and the three disappeared in place. In the ninja world at this time, Lei Luo's birthday banquet for his daughter's future has just ended. The guests also gradually left, and at this moment, Lei Luo suddenly frowned, because he felt that someone broke into the space in his heavenly palace. Someone can actually break into the space of my heavenly imperial palace. There is absolutely no one in the ninja world who has this ability. Looks like Otsutsuki Momoshiki and the others are here. Lei Luo's eyes gradually became cold, and there was a killing intent on his body. The three of them, Otsutsuki Momoshiki, really knew how to pick the time, and they came here not long after Kagaya gave birth, and the three of them probably wanted to enter Kagaya's heavenly imperial space. But I didn't expect that in addition to Kagaya, there is Lei Luo in the ninja world who also has the space of the imperial palace of the sky. The result was a mistake, but Lei Luo noticed it. Feeling the cold breath on Lei Luo's body, Rin said that Zhang Lei Luo woke up. Lei Luo-kun, what's wrong with you? Rin shook Lei Luo and whispered softly. Lei Luo come back to his senses, and quickly restrained the murderous aura from his body, so as not to affect the people around him. Then looked at the four daughters beside him and the little cute future still lying in the cradle. Lei Luo shook his head gently and said, "It's nothing important, you don't have to worry. Having a birthday banquet for the future today, you are all busy. You guys have a good rest, I'm going out." I suddenly remembered that there is a little thing to deal with. After speaking, Lei Luo walked out directly. The four girls are not fools. They have already realized that something must have happened, but they didn't say much. One is because they believe in Lei Luo's strength, and the other is that if they follow along, not only may they not be able to help, but they may even drag Lei Luo back. Lei Luo left the house. He turned into a light and galloped into the distance. During this period, he also used the void walk to flicker constantly. With Lei Luo's speed, he soon came to an inaccessible place. There will be no worries in fighting here. Lei Luo sensed for a moment and found that the three people in the space in the imperial palace of his own were still there, and then snorted coldly, and he also entered the space where the three people were. Lei Luo's heavenly imperial space. The three of Otsutsuki Momoshiki are looking for the temple in the space. Because there will be a temple in the center of each space in the heavenly imperial palace, and there is also a god statue of the owner of the heavenly imperial palace, and this temple is also the joint point of each space. Otsutsuki Momoshiki can use Yomatsu Hirasaka to enter Lei Luo's heavenly imperial palace, but they cannot shuttle freely among them. They have to go through the temple to find the node that enters the starting ball space, so as to control or destroy it. And the space where they are now is filled with an energy that has never been seen before, with super radiation and corrosiveness. This forced them to use chakra all the time to protect their bodies. I didn't expect Kagaya to create such a strange space, but it's still a waste. Otsutsuki Momoshiki said coldly, his tone full of disdain for Kagaya. Finally, the three of them found the temple in the nuclear energy space, but looking at the statue in the temple, the three of them finally had a little surprise. Because they found that the statue was not Kagaya, but a strange man they had never seen before, and it didn't look like they belonged to the Otsutsuki clan, but looked like the natives on this planet. How could a low-level creature have the imperial palace? Otsutsuki Momoshiki was a little surprised, but his words were still full of disdain and depreciation of the people in the ninja world. At this time, Lei Luo also happened to enter the imperial palace, appeared in the temple of the nuclear energy space, and heard Otsutsuki Momoshiki's words. Lei Luo, who was already unhappy with Momoshiki and the three of them, burst out of his body with murderous intent. Lower creatures. Humph, let's see who is the inferior creature. Lei Luo let out a cold drink, then instantly entered the three immortals' sage mode, and attacked Momoshiki directly. Senpo, Sage Art. Light escape, 8-foot Joan Tomo. With a flash of light, Leiluo came to the top of Momoshiki's three people's heads. With a wave of his hand, countless golden tomo shot out from Leiluo's hands and slammed towards Momoshiki and the three of them. Momoshiki spotted Leiluo above in an instant. "Senior Momoshiki, it's the native," Otsutsuki Arashiki said when he saw Leiluo's face. Otsutsuki Momoshiki snorted coldly and said, "Lower creatures, just in time." Since he owns the space in the sky, he is absolutely inseparable from Kagaya. He must know Kagaya's position. During the conversation, the few people easily blocked Leiluo's attack. I saw Otsutsuki Momoshiki raised his right hand, and the yuhi-colored rinnegan in his right hand gushed out, and absorbed all the golden tomo in front of him. As for Otsutsuki Arashiro, a chakra fishing rod suddenly appeared in his hand, and he swung it to intercept and absorb the golden tomo blasted by Leiluo. Only Otsutsuki Kinshiki turned the yuhi-colored ring in his hand into a shield to block Leiluo's attack. This yuhi-colored ring is similar to the existence of Gudodama, truth-seeking ball. However, from the means of the three, it can be seen that among the three, Otsutsuki Kinshiki is obviously weaker than the other two. Then Otsutsuki Momoshiki looked at Leiluo in the air and said coldly, "Lower creature, tell Kagaya's location, I will spare you not to die." Hearing Otsutsuki Momoshiki's words, Leiluo's expression became even colder, and it has been many years since he was looked down upon by others. I saw Leiluo replied coldly, "Want to know the location of Kagaya? Okay, beat me, I'll tell you." Chapter 230-Cut Kinshiki. Nuclear explosion atomic jade. As soon as the words fell, Leiluo attacked again. With a flash of light, Leiluo appeared above the heads of Otsutsuki Momoshiki and the three of them. Higher Inmaru in his hand instantly entered the Benkai state. Breath of water *3 styles *Lulu dance. Higher Inmaru slashed towards Otsutsuki Momoshiki and the three of them from all directions with a cold air, and it seemed that Leiluo was all over the sky for a while. Each one looks like an illusory shadow, but every knife cut is real. Facing Leiluo's attack, Otsutsuki Momoshiki didn't even make a move, just glanced at Otsutsuki Kinshiki, and Kinshiki understood what Momoshiki meant. In Otsutsuki Momoshiki's eyes, Leiluo was not worth his own hands at all, and Kinshiki under him was enough to solve Leiluo. I saw Otsutsuki Kinshiki instantly open Byakugan, staring at Leiluo's figure. The yuhi-colored ring behind him glowed, his speed suddenly increased, and he waved a phantom, blocking every strike of Leiluo. "Lower creatures, you'd better tell Kagaya's location obediently, so if I'm in a good mood, maybe I'll spare your life," Otsutsuki Momoshiki said coldly, looking at Leiluo's figure who had stopped attacking. With a feeling of being aloof and looking down on all beings in his words, Otsutsuki Momoshiki felt that he was like a god in the ninja world, and he had an indescribable sense of superiority. Leiluo snorted coldly and said, "I don't know where your confidence comes from, you are so shameless. You don't really think this guy can solve me, do you? Then I'll let you watch your most loyal subordinate die in front of your eyes." Listening to Leiluo's words, Otsutsuki Momoshiki looked indifferent. Although Kinshiki was a little weaker than them, he didn't think anyone in the ninja world could deal with Kinshiki. Leiluo finished speaking. Otsutsuki Kinshiki attacked first. I saw that the yuhi-colored ring behind Otsutsuki Kinshiki suddenly turned into a giant axe, and when he held it in his hand, the figure flickered and disappeared in place. Appearing again, it has come to Leiluo, and the giant axe slashed towards Leiluo's head. This Otsutsuki Kinshiki looks burly but not slow. However, for Leiluo, his speed is too slow. After all, Leiluo is a man with the speed of light. With a sound of gold and iron clashing, Leiluo directly held Otsutsuki Kinshiki's axe. Then, Leiluo, who was in the Three Immortals Sage mode, directly opened the 8 inner gates. Senpo, Sage Art. The 8 inner gates. Open the door of closure, the door of life, the door of injury, the door of Jing, the door of do, and the door of shock, all open for me. After all, it's 1 on 3, Lei Luo has decided to make a quick decision, and solve one first, and this target is the weakest Otsutsuki Kinshiki in front of him. With the opening of the 8 inner gates, a vigorous and violent momentum burst out from Lei Luo, and Lei Luo's figure disappeared instantly. Boom! Lei Luo appeared behind Otsutsuki Kinshiki in an instant, kicked him out, and smashed into the ground. Otsutsuki Kinshiki climbed out of the deep hole, but there was no serious injury on his body. It's a strong defense. Lei Luo narrowed his eyes. When he kicked Otsutsuki Kinshiki just now, he felt something wrong with his feet. Sure enough, he should have kicked on the shield made by the Yuhi-colored ring. The defense of this Yuhi-colored ring is very fast, but my speed has increased again, I don't believe you can stop it. Lei Luo bit Kiba, he started Shrena's Rhapsody again, and the speed was immediately increased by 30%. Boom, boom, boom. Lei Luo kept attacking Otsutsuki Kinshiki from all angles. Although he was constantly resisted, Otsutsuki Kinshiki was powerless to fight back. As the saying goes, if you keep it for a long time, you will lose it. In this battle, Otsutsuki Kinshiki also consumed a lot, but every attack of Lei Luo was powerful. Although he blocked it, the shock was getting stronger and stronger, and his arms were a little numb. Chance. Lei Luo felt that Otsutsuki Kinshiki's defense was a little slower, and he continued to attack again and again. Finally, this time, Otsutsuki Kinshiki failed to block Lei Luo's attack, and was kicked to the sky by Lei Luo. Looking at this neutral position, Lei Luo immediately slid to it. Day Tiger. A fierce tiger made of vigor blasted out of Lei Luo's hand, and slammed hard on Otsutsuki Kinshiki's chest. Immediately, Otsutsuki Kinshiki was directly smashed half of his body, and then, with a bang, he fell to the ground. Just when Lei Luo was about to take action, he was blocked by Otsutsuki Momoshiki. Otsutsuki Momoshiki looked at Kinshiki, who was slumped on the ground with a dissatisfied expression. Trash. You can't even deal with a low-level creature, what's the use of you? Cough cough. Otsutsuki Kinshiki coughed up 2 mouthfuls of blood and said weakly, I'm sorry, Momoshiki-sama, I've let you down. Please continue to fight with my chakra. Then Otsutsuki Kinshiki took the initiative to condense the remaining chakra of his own. Otsutsuki Momoshiki listened to Kinshiki's words. His expression still did not fluctuate. He stretched out his right hand, and saw that Rinnegan began to absorb Kinshiki's power as soon as he turned. Lei Luo wouldn't just watch Otsutsuki Momoshiki absorb Kinshiki's power to strengthen himself, but his attack was intercepted by Otsutsuki Ura style. Humans, just because you beat Kinshiki doesn't mean you can beat us. I can't let you disturb the seniors, you should stay here obediently. After Otsutsuki Kushi intercepted Lei Luo's attack, he looked at Lei Luo and said lightly. Lei Luo has already quit the mode of the 8 inner gates at this time. Although Lei Luo's physical strength is very high, opening the 7 gates for a long time is also a lot of pressure for Lei Luo. Lei Luo looked at Momoshiki, who was still absorbing Kinshiki's power, and knew that ordinary attacks would never break through Otsutsuki's Ura-style interception, but if Momoshiki completely absorbed Kinshiki, it would definitely be more difficult to deal with. And Lei Luo also knows that he has killed Kinshiki now, showing his strength and threat, so Momoshiki and Urashi will definitely not fight with him one-on-one like before. That's the only way. Lei Luo instantly made up his mind. Then it directly stimulated the power of Godzilla in the heart, and instantly entered the full-body Godzilla mode, merged with the Sage mode of the 3 Immortals, and transformed into a Godzilla fairy. Roar! In this nuclear space, Lei Luo felt that Godzilla's power was very active, which was exactly what he expected. Then the Godzilla fairy Lei Luo directly opened his huge mouth and condensed the atomic jade. Do not. With Lei Luo's absorption and manipulation, this atomic jade not only has Godzilla's own energy, but also absorbs a lot of nuclear energy in this nuclear energy space. This move should now be called Nuclear Explosion Atomic Jade. Chapter 231 _ What is this ability? Then Godzilla Sage Lei Luo instantly spit the nuclear explosion atomic jade in the direction of Otsutsuki Urasaki and Otsutsuki Momoshiki. Otsutsuki Urashiki looked at the energy ball intertwined with Dark Blue and Yuhi, who was approaching him quickly. His face was very cautious, because he felt a deadly danger from it. But Otsutsuki Urashiki was still very confident in his abilities, and threw the Yuhi light fishing rod in his hand towards the nuclear explosion Gudodama truth-seeking ball. The Yuhi light fishing rod is a weapon made through yin-yang escape technique. Rinnegan's outer power resides in it, and he releases Yuhi-colored glowing chakra fishing lines and hooks in battle, which can absorb all the ninjutsu and chakra that he catches. And can use all kinds of ninjutsu that have been caught, and have all kinds of chakra attributes. As the fish hook was thrown into the nuclear explosion atomic jade, the chakra energy in the atomic jade was continuously absorbed by it, and the body size quickly shrank a few times. Just when Otsutsuki Urashi thought that he could absorb all the nuclear bombs just like this, he found that he couldn't. The chakra in the nuclear explosion atomic jade has been completely absorbed, but the atomic energy and nuclear energy have remained, and this is the core of the nuclear explosion atomic jade. There's still a spell that I can't absorb. Otsutsuki Urashiki finally had a hint of shock. But at this moment, the nuclear explosion atomic jade exploded. Boom rumble. With a loud bang, a terrifying shock wave spread out. And due to the explosion of the nuclear explosion atomic jade, the nuclear energy within the explosion range was also activated, entered a state of riot, and continuously exploded and fissioned. Otsutsuki Urashiki, who was struggling to resist the attack, and Otsutsuki Momoshiki, who was absorbing kinshiki, didn't have time to escape, and were directly enveloped in the explosion of the nuclear bomb. After Otsutsuki used the Yuhi light fishing rod again to absorb and weaken the power of part of the explosion, he felt that he couldn't hold on any longer, so he directly used Yomatsu Hirasaka to shuttle to another place. But this time, because of Otsutsuki Ura's style delay, Otsutsuki Momoshiki finally absorbed Kinshiki's power. After absorbing all the remaining power of Kinshiki, the Rinnegan in Momoshiki's hands has changed, from a Yuhi-colored Rinnegan to a purple Rinnegan. And also opened a purple Rinnegan between the eyebrows. Looking at the explosion shock wave spreading towards him, Otsutsuki Momoshiki raised his right hand, and the purple Rinnegan's pupil power surged, directly absorbing all the energy storm. Lower creatures, I admit that you are much stronger than ordinary lower creatures, but that's it. Otsutsuki Momoshiki looked at Lei Luo and said coldly. It was obvious that he was stronger than before after absorbing the power of Otsutsuki Kinshiki. Lei Luo also had an icy look, his eyes were full of murderous aura, and he looked down at Otsutsuki Momoshiki in the form of Godzilla, and said coldly, everyone will talk big, let's see the real trick. Infinite Tsukuyomi. The 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan between Lei Luo's eyebrows in Godzilla Sage mode suddenly opened, and a mysterious light Jinchuriki column shrouded Otsutsuki Momoshiki down. As long as it is enveloped by this light Jinchuriki column, this Otsutsuki Momoshiki will inevitably be pulled into Infinite Tsukuyomi by Lei Luo. But when Lei Luo released Infinite Tsukuyomi, Otsutsuki Momoshiki disappeared in place in an instant, as if he knew it in advance. When he reappeared in the next second, he was already at the side of Otsutsuki Urasaki. Healthy dog feeding. Otsutsuki Momoshiki waved his hand and summoned a huge monster that looked like a combination of a dog and a snake, which was created by Otsutsuki Momoshiki using Doden Earth-style chakra. Then, under Momoshiki's control, he charged directly towards Lei Luo. Boom! The dog snake drew its tail to Lei Luo's position, but Lei Luo didn't dodge either. Lei Luo didn't pay attention to the power of this chakra creation. Lei Luo incarnated into clasped his front claws forward, and directly hugged the tail of the dog snake in his arms. Then Lei Luo tried his best to turn the whole dog and snake around. Boom, boom, boom. The dog was smashed by Lei Luo, but he couldn't get rid of it. In the end, Lei Luo rounded it and threw it towards Otsutsuki Momoshiki. Looking at the flying dog snake, Otsutsuki swung the Yuhi light fishing rod and inserted the hook into the dog snake's body, and then the Doden Earth-style chakra that built the dog snake was quickly absorbed and gathered in him behind the Yuhi light among the fish baskets. This Yuhi light fish basket not only has the function of storing and absorbing chakra, but it can increase the power of the ninjutsu and sage art Koten counterattack, and the power of the art is far beyond the original effect. Sure enough, in the next second, Yuhi's light fish basket fluctuated, and a more mighty snake was summoned by it. And Otsutsuki Momoshiki didn't stand by. Since the original dog snake was not a threat to Lei Luo, then another fiercer one would be added. Ape Rock. I saw that the chakra on Otsutsuki Momoshiki kept surging, and the fire attribute and earth attribute chakra quickly gathered in front of him, creating a huge and mighty lava giant. Then Otsutsuki Momoshiki stepped forward and walked directly into the lava giant. This lava giant is not only big, but the speed and strength can easily suppress Kyubi, 9 tails. Boom. I saw the lava giant stomped abruptly and rushed towards Lei Luo in an instant, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the Godzilla immortal Lei Luo incarnated. And the reanimated, larger snake was also under the control of Otsutsuki Ura, and rushed towards Lei Luo along with the lava giant where Momoshiki was. Next, is the physical showdown of the 3 giant beasts. Boom. Boom. When the 3 giant beasts collided continuously, but it was true that the lava giant and the dog snake fought one against another, and the entire battlefield was bombarded with potholes. But Lei Luo didn't even score a point with the higher Inmaru in his hand. After all, Lei Luo's swordsmanship is more powerful than the simple and crude attacks of the lava giant and the snake. Breath of water *chi Shizuku ripple. Lei Luo instantly stabbed Otsutsuki Momoshiki, who was enveloped by the lava giant, with the fastest straight stab in the breath of water. After turning on the 5-vision omnipotence, Lei Luo easily found the location of Otsutsuki Momoshiki's body in the huge body of the lava giant. And Otsutsuki Momoshiki sensed a well-known sense of danger, and saw the pupil power in his 3 purple Rinagons rushing frantically, and a ripple seemed to sway in an instant. Then Lei Luo felt like his body had stopped, but his mind was still clearly active. What kind of power is this? Chapter 232-Wichita Godzilla Fairy. Destroy Momoshiki. Lei Luo was shocked because he felt like he had lost control of his body. But he discovered the clue through the 5-vision omnipotence that was still open. Because everything around him fell into a state of stillness, except Otsutsuki Momoshiki himself. Could it be that time and space stand still? But Lei Luo felt something was wrong. If time and space really stood still, logically, his mind and soul should also be stopped. But his current thinking is obviously active. Actually, Lei Luo overlooked one point, that is, he is a systematic man. His soul is bound to the system. Although Otsutsuki Momoshiki's time-space stillness is powerful, it is not comparable to the power of the system. For others, when Otsutsuki Momoshiki turns on the stillness of time and space, their minds are also still. At this moment, Otsutsuki Momoshiki attacked Lei Luo with a backhand while Lei Luo's body was out of control. Lei Luo found that a familiar black stick appeared in Otsutsuki Momoshiki's hands through his 5-sighted vision, and then Otsutsuki Momoshiki threw it gently, and the black stick flew towards him in an instant. Seeing the black stick, Lei Luo's spirit instantly tightened. He already recognized the material of the black stick. This black stick is the product of yin and yang escape, and it is attached to Rinnegan's outsider power. If it is stabbed by this black stick, the chakra in the body will inevitably lose control. Although for Lei Luo, chakra is not all of his abilities, but it is also most of his abilities. You must not let this black stick penetrate your body. Lei Luo knew about Pervert's ability to stop time and space, and Otsutsuki Momoshiki couldn't last long, so Lei Luo struggled mentally, but he still couldn't control his body. Then just try this. Lei Luo tried to activate his life-saving equipment in the system space. Zangya Hourglass. Ding! After all, this system did not disappoint Lei Luo, and the Zangya Hourglass in this system space can still be used normally. Originally, Otsutsuki Momoshiki looked at Lei Luo, who couldn't move at all in front of him, and his face was already full of victory. But unexpectedly, in the next second, Otsutsuki Momoshiki was shocked to find that the Godzilla immortal Lei Luo in front of him instantly turned into a huge sculpture made of gold. The yin and yang escape with the power of an outsider stabbed Lei Luo fiercely, but it only made a sound of gold and iron clashing, and didn't pierce at all. What the hell is this? Otsutsuki Momoshiki had a headache. But just as he was about to continue his attack, the duration of the time-space stillness he was using had expired. 2.5 seconds later, as soon as Lei Luo's golden body dissipated, Lei Luo used Void Walk to disappear in place in an instant, avoiding the black rod of Rinnegan who came to him again. Seeing the figure of Lei Luo disappearing in front of his eyes, Otsutsuki Momoshiki's expression darkened. I spent a lot of Rinnegan's pupil power and chakra using time and space still, but I didn't expect the human in front of him to be able to use an invincible ability that he had never seen before in a state of time and space still. This was really beyond Otsutsuki Momoshiki's expectations. Momoshiki originally thought that with his abilities, there was absolutely no indigenous people in the ninja world who could stop him. But I didn't expect that there would be a strange existence like Lei Luo. Looking at Lei Luo who appeared in the distance, Otsutsuki Momoshiki's eyes were deep like water. After such a long battle, there should be not much chakra in the human body, and we still have two people, me and Pushi, the final winner is me after all. Then, he directly called Otsutsuki Ura behind him and greeted him to attack Lei Luo. Urashi, let's take action together, don't keep your hands, fight quickly and deal with that inferior creature. Otsutsuki Momoshiki snorted coldly. Otsutsuki Momoshiki immediately replied, no problem, senior. But Otsutsuki Urashi said in his heart, this is the first time Xiaotao has taken the initiative to ask me to do it together. It seems that this human has put a lot of pressure on Xiaotao. The surface, Otsutsuki Ura, she calls Momoshiki, senior, but behind the scenes he calls him, Xiaodao. He is a ruthless character with a dual personality. On the one hand, it looks humorous, but on the other, it is really scheming, ruthless, and ruthless. Its fighting stance also looks casual and is good at hiding its strength. Otsutsuki Momoshiki also has a certain understanding of his attitude, so he will say the words not to keep his hands and make a quick decision. Then, Otsutsuki Momoshiki, who is still in the lava giant, and Otsutsuki Urashiki, who is suspended behind him, attacked Lei Luo together. Tianzubo Meteor Life. I saw that the chakra on Otsutsuki's body burst out suddenly, and then he directly waved the Yuhi Light fishing rod in his hand, and the Yuhi Light fishing hook was thrown out directly, shrouded in the Godzilla fairy Lei Luo. And the lava giant of Otsutsuki Momoshiki is close behind. Seeing the attack coming towards him, the 9-tomo Rinnegan in Lei Luo's shedding cave turned and used an ability that he had never used before. But this ability is a kind of ability that Mangekyo Sharingan, Rinnegan has already possessed in Samsara Sharingan. That's Susanoo. Wizard Susanoo. I saw the pupil power in Lei Luo's 9-tomo Rinnegan gushing frantically, and soon a pair of extremely powerful armor was condensed outside the Godzilla Sage. And Lei Luo's current state is, Wizard Godzilla Immortal. Although Lei Luo's Susanoo doesn't have magical equipment like Uchiha Itachi's 10-fist sword, its defense is definitely the strongest among all Susanoos. Yuhi Light fish hooks released by Otsutsuki Ura's Tensubo Meteor Life hit Susanoo's armor, but they didn't have any effect on Lei Luo. And Lei Luo easily parried Otsutsuki Momoshiki's giant punch from the lava giant. Now Lei Luo has not only greatly increased his defense, but his strength has also increased by about 30%. The Godzilla fairy Lei Luo directly held the fist of the lava giant Otsutsuki Momoshiki, and then the other hand pierced directly into the body of the lava giant, digging towards Otsutsuki Momoshiki. And Lei Luo's mouth was still singing at the same time. The wall of iron sand, the pagoda in the shape of a monk, the glowing iron glowing, because of its firmness, it is finally silent. The 75 Jinchuriki column T-gun. With Lei Luo's chanting, the void was solidified in an instant, and the 5 Jinchuriki column pieces that looked like iron Jinchuriki columns smashed directly on the body of Otsutsuki Momoshiki. Otsutsuki Momoshiki didn't have time to react, and was directly imprisoned in the body, because these iron Jinchuriki column were actually suppressed on Momoshiki's soul. Before Momoshiki could break free, Lei Luo, the immortal Godzilla, took Otsutsuki Momoshiki's body in his hand. Then Lei Luo clenched his palm fiercely. Boom. Chapter 233 Extinguishing Style. The battle is over. Bang. Click. Otsutsuki Momoshiki's body was directly crushed by Lei Luo in the state of the Godzilla immortal. Otsutsuki Arashiki, who was about to attack to save Momoshiki, was stunned. But Otsutsuki Arashiki was just stunned for a moment and then came back to his senses. After all, although he and Momoshiki came to hunt down Kagaya together, their relationship was not that good. Just now he was only shocked by Lei Luo's methods and the tragic death of Momoshiki. After Otsutsuki Momoshiki was crushed by Lei Luo, the huge lava giant controlled by Momoshiki collapsed and scattered on the ground. Lei Luo turned his attention to Otsutsuki Urasaki again. Otsutsuki Urasaki looked at the huge eyes of Lei Luo in the state of Godzilla immortal, and suddenly there was a little panic in his heart. Then he heard the faint chant again. Otsutsuki Urashi clearly remembered that just after the chant, Otsutsuki Momoshiki lost his ability to resist, and was directly caught by Lei Luo. Otherwise, Otsutsuki Momoshiki can also use Yomatsu Hirasaka to travel through space. How can he die so easily? Even if he used time and space still and consumed a lot of chakra, the remaining chakra was enough for him to escape. 26 of the Binding Road. Kyuguang. As Lei Luo's singing ended, a layer of inexplicable power instantly covered the appearance of the Godzilla immortal. In Otsutsuki's eyes, Lei Luo's figure disappeared instantly. This made Otsutsuki Arashiki suddenly tense up. Because in Otsutsuki's perception, the atmosphere of Lei Luo has been lost in this nuclear energy space. Did this human leave? Just when Otsutsuki Arashiki was about to relax his vigilance, his heart suddenly beat violently, and a breath of death rushed to his face. Ah! Otsutsuki Urashi hurriedly dodged, but was still a little slower, and one arm was directly hooked by Lei Luo. The power of the 26th Dao Bound is that it can make people unable to discover themselves, cover up all their aura, and be invisible in the eyes of others. Lei Luo finished singing. He walked directly through the void and came behind Otsutsuki Urasaki. Because he was worried that using chakra would make Otsutsuki Ura's style aware, Lei Luo directly used taijutsu to attack. However, the current Otsutsuki Arashiki was also seriously injured. And losing an arm is equivalent to losing a Rinnegan at the same time for Otsutsuki Ura's style, and Yomatsu Hirasaka, who has the ability to travel through space, can't use it. Good luck. Lei Luo looked down at Otsutsuki, who was in the state of Godzilla, and said coldly. But how do you avoid this next move? The chanting sound that seemed to come from the underworld sounded again, but the faint voice sounded like a bell in Otsutsuki's ears, hitting his heart. The thundering carriage, the gaps in the spinning wheel, this thing is clustered with light and divided into 6. 64 of the Binding Road. 6 Stand Light Prison. 6 Paths Light Jinchuriki column fell from the sky, heading towards Otsutsuki Ura's style. Otsutsuki Urashima threw out his Yuhi light rod to absorb the power of the light Jinchuriki column, but found that he failed. I saw that the Yuhi light fishhook thrown from the Yuhi light fishing rod of Otsutsuki Urushina went straight through the light Jinchuriki column, and the light Jinchuriki column did not consume anything. Then, when the 6 paths light Jinchuriki column came to the top of Otsutsuki Urasana's head, it quickly contracted to form the 6 paths light rope, which was bound to Otsutsuki Urasana's limbs and torso. The next moment, Otsutsuki Urashiki felt like he had lost control of his body. Is this how Momoshiki-sensei felt just now? This sense of bondage permeates the soul, and it is definitely not as simple as the 6 paths light rope. Afterwards, when Lei Luo grabbed the void, Hiranmaru appeared on Lei Luo's right hand, and then became the size that matched Lei Luo's current body shape. Summer over. Lei Luo's eyes were full of coldness. Momoshiki and Kinshiki have been waiting for you in the underworld for a while, you should go find them. Then the enormous Hiranmaru slashed Otsutsuki Urashiki's head with a bitter frosty breath. No, I don't want to die. Otsutsuki Urashiki felt the breath of death coming, but this time he couldn't dodge, and the fear of death made him cry out loudly. I am willing to surrender to you, humans. But Lei Luo didn't stop. Hiranmaru slashed hard, and Otsutsuki Ura's style was cut away in an instant. I'm sorry, I don't believe you. After seeing Otsutsuki Kushi lose his vital signs, Lei Luo returned to a normal state and said softly while looking at the blood on the ground. After all, Lei Luo has no way of manipulating people's hearts, and he has no way to control Otsutsuki Ura's style, to ensure that he will obey his orders and not betray. When he subdued Otsutsuki Kagaya, it was because of the system task completion prompt, which made Lei Luo be sure that Otsutsuki Kagaya really surrendered, and Lei Luo would let Kagaya go. Otherwise, just because Kagaya is beautiful, will Lei Luo let her go? Lei Luo is not the kind of person who only thinks with his lower body. This time is finally over. Lei Luo exclaimed. The battle between the 3 of Otsutsuki Momoshiki did not seem to last long, but Lei Luo felt very tired. After all, these 3 are not weak chickens, even the weakest Otsutsuki Kinshiki is basically invincible in the ninja world. During the battle, Lei Luo was always in a tense state of mind, and also consumed a huge amount of chakra. Even the 8 inner gates, which had been on for so long, also brought a lot of load to Lei Luo's body. That's why Lei Luo felt so tired. But fortunately, I got Sharia's Rhapsody, Zhangya's Hourglass, and Tegu's 5 Vision Almighty equipment before, whether it's the acceleration of Rhapsody and chakra recovery, or the invincibility of the Hourglass body, or the 5 Vision Almighty pupil magical abilities are indispensable for Lei Luo in battle. Especially Zhangya's Hourglass, if it weren't for it, Lei Luo might have died in Momoshiki's hands when Otsutsuki Momoshiki used time and space to stop, so there might be a chance to fight back. Lei Luo didn't have the mood to clean up the battlefield, and the battlefield was in Lei Luo's heavenly imperial space, and it didn't have any impact on the ninja world, so there was no need for Lei Luo to do any finishing work. Then Lei Luo's figure flashed, the scene changed instantly, and Lei Luo returned to the ninja world. Taking a deep breath, Lei Luo crossed his knees and began to recover his state. After a long time, Lei Luo finally felt that he had recovered, then found a clean stream to wash, and took out a set of clean clothes from the seal scroll to put on. Then he walked briskly in the direction of home. Little future, Dad is back. Chapter 234 A long 10 years. Make waves again. Lei Luo-kun, you're back. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Lei Luo who came in from outside and was very happy. After all, after Xiaomi's birthday party was over, Lei Luo had something to do. It was a day and a night, and it still made people a little worried. The 3 girls in the room heard Yuhi's voice and all came out. Lei Luo-kun, you're finally back, you'll be fine. Rin circled around Lei Luo a few times, but he didn't find any injury to Lei Luo, so he was relieved. Lei Luo touched Rin's head and said, Don't worry, I have nothing to worry about. Then he looked at Otsutsuki Kagaya and asked, How is the little future? Kagaya's face, she said softly, she just fell asleep in the future, so she's still quite safe. Rin also said, yes, the future will be much safer than when Naruto was a child. Ha ha ha, that's good, Lei Luo said with a big laugh. But Yugao suddenly covered Lei Luo's mouth and said softly, Lei Luo-kun, please be quiet, don't wake up the future. Lei Luo's eyes. With a future at home, his status seemed to have declined a bit. These four wives didn't care about them as much as before. But she was her own daughter after all, how could Lei Luo eat her own daughter's vinegar? Lei Luo didn't make any more noise and walked into the house with the four girls. It's all right, you all go back to your room first, I'll go see little future. Lei Luo said to the three daughters Yuhi, Yugao and Rin. After listening to Lei Luo's words, the three girls nodded obediently and returned to their room. And Lei Luo and Kagaya came to Kagaya's room. Lei Luo looked at the future sleeping in the cradle with a tender look on his face. At this moment, Otsutsuki Kagaya whispered to Lei Luo in a low voice, Lei Luo-kun, are they here? Because he was worried about waking up the little future, Kagaya's voice was very low. If it wasn't for Lei Luo's hearing, he might not be able to hear what Kagaya said. Lei Luo heard the words, he knew that Kagaya was talking about were the three of them, Otsutsuki Momoshiki, and then dragged Kagaya to the side of the bed, away from the cradle of little future. Then he said to Kagaya, yes, Otsutsuki Momoshiki, they have come. Kagaya heard the words, a worried look appeared on her face. Now she has just given birth to the future, and her state has not returned to the strongest time. I didn't expect Otsutsuki Momoshiki and the others to come at this time. It seems that this is fate. Kagaya was about to say something, he heard Lei Luo say again, but don't worry, the three of them have been solved by me. Kagaya was stunned for a moment, and said with a stammer, Lei Luo-kun, you. What did you say? Momoshiki, they have been solved by you. I have been afraid for so many years, and I still want to use infinite Tsukuyomi to create the White Zetsu Legion to overwhelm Momoshiki and the others. Unexpectedly, the three of Momoshiki were solved by Lei Luo in just one day. Lei Luo reached out and hugged Kagaya tightly in his arms, feeling her trembling body, gently stroking her back, and said softly, it's all right, you don't have to worry anymore, Momoshiki and the others are already dead. The Otsutsuki family won't know about you anymore, you're free. Under Lei Luo's caress, Kagaya slowly calmed down and couldn't help crying with joy. After all these years, he finally got rid of that kind of worrying life. Kagaya buried her head in Lei Luo's arms, feeling the temperature of Lei Luo's chest, with an indescribable peace of mind. Feeling Lei Luo's breath, Kagaya fell asleep in Lei Luo's arms. Lei Luo looked at Kagaya, who was sleeping in his arms, gently placed him on the bed, and then lay down beside Kagaya and slept together. After all, the battle with Momoshiki and the three was very tiring. Although there was nothing to do physically, the mental exhaustion still needed a good rest to ease recovery. After solving the threat of the three Otsutsuki Momoshiki, it seems that the unified ninja world has finally entered into true peace. The shadow of war is gradually leaving people, and the ninja world is changing with each passing day, entering an era of rapid development. In a flash, 10 years have passed. The concept of a ninja village no longer exists in the current ninja world, and ninjas have become a formal military establishment. The 5 ninja villages that originally trained ninjas have now become 5 ninja academies. Of course, due to historical issues, the strongest among the 5 colleges must be the Konoha College. As early as 4 years ago, Lei Luo had abdicated and no longer served as the chairman of the Wano Kingdom Standing Committee. The new chairman was replaced by Uzumaki Naruto, Lei Luo's adopted son. Although it is said that Uzumaki Naruto did not become the 7th generation Hokage he was thinking of after all, but he became the 2nd generation chairman with a higher status than Hokage. Moreover, under the training of Lei Luo and Minato, the 20-year-old Naruto already has enough ability to take this position, which allows Lei Luo to retire with confidence. Lei Luo retired. In order to avoid boredom and take care of his daughter, he served as the dean of Konoha College. In the same year, the 6-year-old Miku entered the Konoha Academy to study and embarked on the road of becoming a ninja. And now 10 years old, the strength has surpassed Chunin. It can be said that it is barely a Jonin, and even when Tenseigen and Samsara Sharingan are turned on, he can briefly use the power of Cage level. Today is the time of another freshman enrollment at Konoha College. This time, there are also a few more children who attract Lei Luo's attention. Naruto's son Uzumaki Boto, the second Jinchuriki column's daughter Uchiha Sarana, etc. The little ghosts that Lei Luo has an impression of, and Lei Luo's youngest son Lei Ming. Lei Ming is the youngest son of Lei Luo and Yi Yuanrin. For some reason, Lei Luo has worked so hard for so many years, but only these two children are left. Yuhi and Yugao have not made any noise. But Lei Luo didn't force it, it all came naturally. But Lei Ming doesn't have the aptitude of the future. After all, Rin is just an ordinary ninja, that is, his physique is slightly special, and he is suitable for becoming a human Jinchuriki column force. Fortunately, Lei Ming still inherited the chakra of Lei Luo's light attribute, and Lei Luo also discovered that there is a power hidden in Lei Ming's body, which should be the power of the Buddha of the human fruit. These are enough thunder to become a strong man in the future. Just as Lei Luo, as the principal, took the stage to preside over the freshman entrance ceremony, and after making a speech, he returned to his office. And there was already someone waiting for him in the office. Minato, long time no see. Lei Luo greeted Namikaze Minato with a smile. But Lei Luo found that Namikaze Minato's eyebrows were wrapped with a trace of sadness. It seems that Minato is not only here to send bloggers, it must be an accident. Chapter 235_Shell. Action. Lei Luo greeted Namikaze Minato to sit down and made tea for Namikaze Minato by himself. Although Lei Luo has the ability of Ryuku a mortal thief, he can steal the vitality of heaven and earth and live forever. But after so many years, Lei Luo's mentality can't keep the same as when he was young. Now, he likes tea ceremony more and more, so he can keep healthy. Minato, please. Lei Luo handed a cup of tea to Namikaze Minato, took a sip from the cup in front of him, and asked, Minato, you should not only come here to send bloggers to school, and it's as simple as reminiscing. Namikaze Minato took a sip from the teacup and said with a low sigh, Lei Luo-kun, you were right. This time I came mainly because of something, or an organization. Oh, Lei Luo was a little puzzled, what organization? Namikaze Minato said softly, do you remember the information you asked me to investigate after you resurrected me? You said at the time that there are two groups, one is Akatsuki and the other is an unknown group. And now something is happening in the ninja world, and there is an anonymous organization behind it. Lei Luo heard Namikaze Minato say this. He suddenly remembered that there seems to be a mysterious organization in his past life memory called Shell. But this organization is very mysterious, and Lei Luo only has some vague memories. And there seems to be no trace in the ninja world for so many years, which makes Lei Luo think that because of his butterfly effect, the shell tissue has disappeared. Unexpectedly, after so many years, this shell organization has emerged. This also made Lei Luo vaguely remember that the leader of the shell organization seems to be related to the Otsutsuki clan, and it seems that he also has a 10 tails in his hand. Thinking of this, Lei Luo frowned slightly. Although he said that the peaceful 10 years of the ninja world have developed very rapidly, for the strength of 10 tails 6 paths level, the gap is still too big. If this is not careful, it will cause great damage to the ninja world, and the development of the past 10 years will also be destroyed, and countless people will be destroyed. Lei Luo couldn't help looking at Namikaze Minato and asked, what happened? Namikaze Minato replied, recently I found that the mysterious organization seems to be looking for something, and because of this thing, several small occult families have been destroyed. Then I found a little clue from the map. The positions of these occult families are all on a line. If this line is extended, the final position is this Konoha Academy. Lei Luo frowned when he heard this. Is the final destination Konoha College? What the hell are they looking for? Konoha Academy is only those students who are weak in combat, and most of the teachers are not strong in combat and tend to be civilian types. If there was a battle near Konoha Academy, the casualties of the students would probably be heavy. No, they must be organized, and the location of this battle must not be at the Konoha Academy. Lei Luo thought for a long time and finally said, Minato, I understand what you said. You mobilize an Anbu brigade, with Konoha College as the center, and follow this route to search through a carpet to see if you can find the traces of the mysterious organization. We must eliminate them in advance. Namikaze Minato nodded and replied, No problem, I'll go back and gather the Anbu team. Lei Luo said decisively, as soon as possible. You have the technique of Hiraishin, it shouldn't take long, bring someone to Konoha Academy as soon as possible. Namikaze Minato nodded. Yes. Then he instantly disappeared into Lei Luo's dean's office. Lei Luo frowned, thinking about ways to deal with the problem. Fuck, it's useless for me to be so entangled here. Since it's related to the Otsutsuki family, why don't you ask Kagaya? Lei Luo patted his head and stood up, walked straight out of the dean's office, and walked towards Konoha's own residence. Now Lei Luo's whole family has moved to Konoha Academy. Yugao, Yuhi, Rin and the others are not idle at home, they are all serving as teachers in the academy, and only Kagaya is at home during the day. Because Kagaya's abilities are all due to the fruit of the divine tree, she can't teach students. Lei Luo-kun, why did you come back so early today? Kagaya looked at Lei Luo who came back from outside, gently took off his outer coat for Lei Luo, and asked softly. Lei Luo followed Kagaya into the room, sat down at the table, and asked Kagaya, Kagaya, I came back so early today because I have something to ask you. Sitting opposite Lei Luo, Otsutsuki Kagaya nodded obediently and replied, Lei Luo-kun, if you have anything, just ask. Lei Luo nodded and said, Do you remember when you first came to Earth? Besides you, did the Otsutsuki clan have any other factions? Anyone else? Kagaya lowered her head to look back, then suddenly raised her head to look at Lei Luo and said, Lei Luo-kun, I suddenly remembered someone. Lei Luo was interested, he quickly asked, Who is he? Do you remember his name? Kagaya nodded and replied, When I came to the ninja world, the Otsutsuki family once sent an escort to escort me, but when I entered the ninja world, he was seriously injured because of the atmospheric fluctuations caused by the helium flash of the sun falling from the sky. I also fell from the sky because of this, and finally fell in front of the emperor of the motherland at that time. My guard seems to be called Otsutsuki Jigen. Kagaya's remarks directly solved Lei Luo's doubts, because he remembered that the leader of this shell organization in his previous life's memory was called Seizon. This Otsutsuki Sishuan should have been seriously injured but not dead at the time. He has been hiding and recuperating, and has erased his traces, making people think that he is really dead. And after so many years, his injury should have healed long ago, and he should have his own purpose, otherwise it is impossible that Kagaya has been sealed for so many years and he has not come to save her. And he didn't show up during the Fourth Ninja World War. Then what is he looking for when he came out now? Lei Luo was a little puzzled. But no matter what, Lei Luo must solve him. After so many years, he has entered a state of peaceful and rapid development, but he cannot cause wars again. Just like that, 3 days later, Namikaze Minato came to the office of the Dean of Lei Luo in Konoha Academy again. Lei Luo-kun, they showed up. Just yesterday, someone invaded the clan of the Earth Spider, but because of the timely arrival of the Anbu Brigade, the enemy immediately retreated without causing too many casualties. And the way the enemy leaves, it turns out to be through time and space ninjutsu. However, I have recorded the breath of the enemy. Lei Luo heard a smile on the corner of his mouth. Very good. Now it's our turn to act. Chapter 236 _ The sky is so empty. Get your hands on it. Now that he has the information of the enemy's breath, Lei Luo still has some confidence in finding their location. Then Lei Luo asked Namikaze Minato to call a ninja from the Yamanaka clan in Anbu, and through the secret techniques of the Yamanaka clan, he passed the enemy's breath that Minato felt to Lei Luo. Okay, it's okay, you go down first. Lei Luo felt the message that appeared in his mind, nodded with satisfaction, and then spoke to the ninja of the Yamanaka clan in front of him. Yes, Lord Lei Luo. Yamanaka clan respectfully withdrew from Lei Luo's dean's office. When the Yamanaka clan's ninja pushed out Lei Luo's office, Namikaze Minato looked at Lei Luo and asked, Lei Luo-kun, how is it? Is there a way to find their location? Lei Luo nodded lightly and replied, it should be fine, let me try it. Then Lei Luo began to sing, and there is a spell in the bondage that is very suitable for the current situation. The black and white web, the 22 bridges, the 66 crown belts, the footprints, the distant thunder, the peaks, the background, the nightfall, the sea of clouds, and the blue formations, paint the Taiyuan all over and go straight to the sky. 77 of the binding road. The sky stands against the sky. In an instant, the enemy's breath recorded in Lei Luo's mind diffused out through the spiritual pressure, turned into little stars and drifted away, constantly drifting into the distance. This, 77 of the binding path. Skyting Kongluo, can search, capture and transmit the positions of multiple opponents through the spiritual pressure, which is suitable for the current situation. In front of Lei Luo, Namikaze Minato only felt a strong aura bursting out from Lei Luo's body, and then he felt an inexplicable pressure shrouded above his head, which made him feel breathless. Illusion. After a long time, the momentum of Lei Luo slowly dissipated, and Lei Luo finally opened his eyes. How's it going, Lei Luo-kun? Namikaze Minato felt the pressure on his body disappear and quickly asked Lei Luo. Lei Luo smiled and said, I have already found the location of those guys, but I didn't expect it to be here. After Tianting Kongluo sent back the enemy's information, a map seemed to appear in Lei Luo's mind, and the location of the enemy became a flashing light spot on the map. And the location where the light spot flickered turned out to be the country of the vortex that had been abandoned for many years. Lei Luo said to Namikaze Minato, those guys are in the country of vortex now, let's go. Namikaze Minato said, okay, I'll go get Anbu right now. After saying that, Minato was about to leave, but was stopped by Lei Luo. There's no need to call Anbu. Since the enemy can use time-space ninjutsu, calling Anbu won't help. Just the two of us can go. Lei Luo said to Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato thought about it. It was true, then nodded and said, I understand, then Lei Luo-kun, let's go now. Lei Luo nodded, and then he and Namikaze Minato disappeared instantly. Just when Lei Luo and Namikaze Minato were rushing to the ruins of the country of vortex. Now the shell group is also meeting. But the place where they met was obviously not in the world of ninja. It was a space up and down, obviously constructed by someone through the power of space-time ninjutsu. Thinking that the only person who can build this kind of space in this shell organization is Otsutsuki, the leader of the shell organization, right? And the people who are gathering in this space are obviously not entities, they are all gathered here through demonic illusion. Communication, just like Akatsuki's magic body art. Otsutsuki Seizon sat high in the front seat, his eyes swept over the members of the organization in the space, his eyes were full of indifference. Tell me, what happened? Otsutsuki Seizon said lightly, there was a sense of casualness, but it sounded a little frightening, which was very strange. Cough, cough, cough. An old man in a black robe heard the words and replied, I'm sorry boss, but I still haven't found the tool this time. I suspect that the tool is likely to be hiding in the clan of the Earth Spider clan this time, but it was disturbed by the Anbu ninja. In order to avoid exposure, we have to retreat. Otsutsuki Seizan heard the old man's words. His expression did not fluctuate. Oh, is it? Then Seizan turned to another member and asked, Cold, do you have any news from your side? This member named Cod looks like an ordinary boy, but it is definitely not that simple. After listening to Seizan's question, Cod hurriedly replied, Master Chief, according to my information, there is a great possibility that the civil is in Konoha College. Konoha Academy, Otsutsuki Jigen muttered. Calder nodded vigorously and replied, That's right, at Konoha College. This guy, Chi, is about 6 or 7 years old according to his appearance, and a few days ago was the day when Konoha College was recruiting freshmen. I think it is very likely that he mixed into Konoha College. Otsutsuki Jigen nodded, agreeing with what Cod said. Then Otsutsuki Sishuan said, Since it is possible that Ki is in Konoha Academy, then it's up to you and Daruda to go with you this time. Daruda in Seizan's mouth is the only woman in the shell organization. After listening to Seizan's words, Daruda nodded and replied, Don't worry, leave it to me. Otsutsuki Seizan turned his head and said to the man next to him with long white hair and an iron mask on his face, Guoksan layman, about the Anbu question that the old man said, it's up to you to investigate. Look where these guys got the news. After listening to Seizan's arrangement, the lay master Guoshin narrowed his eyes slightly, and then replied lightly, Yes, Chief. Just when Seizan was about to say something to the old man, he suddenly found that the old man's figure was blurred for a while, and then disappeared into this space. Otsutsuki Sishuan's expression finally changed. This old man was definitely not so bold to take the initiative to cancel the demonic illusion. Communication, during the meeting. Now that his figure has disappeared, it must be an accident. Cold, Daruda. In. The distance between the two of you should be the closest to the old man. Now you should rush to find out what happened. Yes. Following Otsutsuki Seizan's order, Calder and Daruda immediately released the demonic illusion. Communication, without any hesitation, and then immediately set off and rushed towards the old man's position. Looking at the disappearing figures of the two of them, Otsutsuki Seizan's face was gloomy, and he lowered his head and did not know what he was thinking. The space suddenly became quiet, and no one dared to disturb him. Chapter 237 cut off with a knife. The location of the old man was exactly the ruins of the Kingdom of Vortex that Lei Luo sensed. Lei Luo and Namikaze Minato were rushing all the way, and now they finally arrived. Through induction, Lei Luo approached the old man's position, and found that they had built a base under the original hidden village of Uzushiogakure. Looking at the appearance of the base, it is estimated that it did not take long to build. It should have been built when the shell organization emerged and started to recruit the periphery. Are they here? Namikaze Minato looked at the dilapidated hidden village of Uzushiogakure and sensed the enemy's trail, but he didn't get the slightest gain. But Lei Luo, who has turned on the 5-vision omnipotent, has an unobstructed view of the sky and the ground, and has already seen the scene in the base. Lei Luo said to Namikaze Minato, That's right, they are here. They have transformed the underground of the hidden village of Uzushiogakure into a huge base. Also, I also found a few familiar figures in this group of people. A familiar figure? Namikaze Minato asked in confusion. Lei Luo nodded and replied, Yes, there are more than 20 ninjas in this base, about half of them are the elite Jonin from the original villages and some missing nin. It seems that this organization has great plans. Namikaze Minato listened to Lei Luo's words, and his expression instantly became serious. So many elites from various villages, Jonin and missing nin, are members of this mysterious organization, which is not much weaker than Akatsuki back then. Then what should we do now? Namikaze Minato asked, looking at Lei Luo. There was a smile on Lei Luo's face, but there was a murderous intent in his eyes, and he said lightly, Since we are all here, we must remove these guys. It seems that this time I can move my muscles a little bit. I haven't moved for so many years, and my body is almost rusted. In fact, in the past 10 years, Lei Luo has not been eating and waiting to die. With Liuku a mortal thief, he can keep his body in a peak state, and he has been cultivating and cultivating continuously over the years, and his strength is still steadily improving. The level of improvement is not too much, but it is also nearly 10%. With Lei Luo's strength, that 10% is enough to dominate the ninja world. Namikaze Minato nodded when he heard the words. Since Lei Luo has already made up his mind, he will follow Lei Luo's arrangement. He really believes in Lei Luo's strength. Okay, Minato, don't worry, let me give these guys a greeting first. I saw Lei Luo's right hand holding a void, and Hirinmaru instantly appeared in Lei Luo's hand. Old man, this time we are going to fight side by side again. Hirinmaru responded with a slight trembling as if she understood what Lei Luo said. Then Lei Luo activated the Sage Art Chakra in his body, and instantly entered the Three Immortals Sage mode. The dazzling and mysterious eyeshadow appeared on Lei Luo's eye sockets. Senpo, Sage Art, Light Escape, Great Sun Tathagata, Heaven Lock Slashing Moon. I saw the Nine-Tomo Rinnegan on Lei Luo's shedding acupoint opened in an instant. The pupil power poured out wildly. The solar energy in the sky was pulled by the pupil power and entered Lei Luo's body, and then formed countless swastikas behind Lei Luo's aged golden halo. A strong aura burst out from Lei Luo's body, and the chakra in the body poured frantically towards the Hirinmaru in his hand. Generally. And Namikaze Minato, who was beside Lei Luo, couldn't look directly at Lei Luo. Uzushiogakure also had a feeling that a catastrophe was coming, just when they were about to come out to find out what happened. Hirinmaru in Lei Luo's hands finally swung out, and a blade piercing through the sky slashed out of the Hirinmaru. There was nothing to hold back where the blade chi passed, and even the space felt turbulent and broken. The base that was Lei Luo's target was directly crushed by Lei Luo's sword energy, and the elite Jonin among them couldn't stop Lei Luo's sword, and annihilated directly with the base. After all, Lei Luo's knife incorporates a full 30% of his chakra and Sage Art Chakra, as well as the solar energy in the sky, which is no less powerful than the atomic jade of Lei Luo's incarnation of Godzilla. It's a pity that this move is too limited and requires energy. The site of the Kingdom of Vortex was originally an independent island. When Lei Luo's sword chi dissipated, a deep ocean trench appeared in the original location of Uzushiogakure Hidden Village. The seawater from the periphery continued to pour into the trench, and those ninjas who still had a trace of vitality were also swept by the seawater Uzumaki and pulled into the deep sea. Soon, the turbulent seawater filled the trench, and gradually calmed down. Lei Luo found out that no ninja had survived in the trench. The old man who was marked by Bound Daolingya also died in the trench, and the mark has dissipated. In fact, this is also the old man's bad luck. After all, he held a meeting in the shell organization space through demonic illusion. Communication, and his response to the outside world was greatly reduced. Otherwise, with his time-space ninjutsu, he might still be able to escape. While the sea was pouring into the trench, Calder and Daruda finally arrived. Looking at the trench that the original base had turned into, and Lei Luo and Namikaze Minato standing on the edge of the trench, Daruda and Cod were shocked. Because they have seen that this trench was obviously cut open by man. However, they regained their composure immediately. Generally, such a powerful technique must consume a lot of energy. Maybe the chakra in Lei Luo and Namikaze Minato has been cleaned up now. Daruda looked at Lei Luo and Namikaze Minato and asked coldly, "Did you two destroy this base?" Lei Luo had already discovered them through 5 vision omnipotence as early as when Daruda and Cod appeared, but Lei Luo didn't care. Because Lei Luo's current state has basically returned to full, and the strength of these two people is not that strong. I saw Lei Luo replied indifferently, "Yes, I did it, is there any problem?" Daruda narrowed his eyes when he heard the words, and replied sternly, "Since you did it, then go to hell for me." Saying that, Daruda launched an attack on Lei Luo and Cloud followed closely. Hitamitsu. Destroy the laser. I saw the pupil power in Daruda's eyes gushing frantically, and two lasers full of dangerous breath shot directly out of Daruda's eyes. Scientific ninja tool. Peacock double swords. Wind slash. Chakra surged in Calder's body following Daruda's side, and his arms directly turned into two ninja knives, and after a blow, a huge wind blade flew out of the ninja knives and slammed towards Lei Luo. Lei Luo looked at the two who were attacking him, without the slightest panic, only to see a flash of light, and Lei Luo disappeared in place. When he reappeared, Lei Luo had already come behind Cod, and the higher Inmaru in his hand had pierced into Cod's heart. It was the fastest straight stab that used the breath of water *Kiji form *Shizuku ripple. Your strength is just too weak. Knives should be used like this. Cod heard these two words from Lei Luo in his ear, and then his eyes darkened, and he lost consciousness forever. Chapter 238 Otsutsuki sees on now. The strength of this shell organization is really much weaker than Lei Luo expected. I am afraid that only Otsutsuki Seizan can be his opponent. After Lei Luo easily killed Calder, the target was transferred to Daruda. Daruda, who was using the pupil laser to attack Lei Luo, found that Lei Luo disappeared with a flash of light, while Namikaze Minato threw out a sword of forbearance and love and shot at Daruda. The legs under Daruda's feet instantly formed a ************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* forbearance love. But I saw that Namikaze Minato also disappeared instantly and appeared in the position of the sword of forbearance love, holding the sword of forbearance love in his left hand, and a huge Rasengan in his right hand pressed directly on Daruda. Boom! Daruda didn't have time to dodge, and was directly blasted into the ground by the Rasengan of Namikaze Minato. When Daruda got up from the ground, he found that Cod had died in the hands of Lei Luo, and Lei Luo had turned his target on her. Kaden, fire style. Fire dragon fire bullet. Namikaze Minato quickly hand seal in his hand, and then opened his mouth to spit out 3 swift fire dragons, blocking the direction where Daruda escaped. But when the fire dragon came to Daruda, I saw the pupil power in Daruda's eyes gushing frantically, and the right eye directly absorbed the fire dragon. Then the left eye turned his head and released the fire dragon again, and blasted towards Namikaze Minato. A new pupil technique, Lei Luo thought, looking into Daruda's eyes. This Daruda's eyes are clearly not any of the known bloodstains, but this ability is somewhat similar to Uchiha Madara's Rinnegan. Namikaze Minato didn't panic in the face of the obviously stronger fire, Long Yi, and disappeared in place in a flash. He had already left a Hiraishin mark on the ground. And Lei Luo launched an attack directly at Daruda. Come and don't be indecent, you attacked me with a laser just now, then let you taste my laser too. Senpo, Sage Art. Light Escape. Laser Cannon. A dazzling light, Jinchuriki column, shot out from Lei Luo's hand in the air and shrouded directly towards Daruda on the ground. Daruda has just absorbed and reflected Namikaze Minato's Kaden fire style, and now he can't use Hitomi Jutsu, so he can only use space-time ninjutsu to avoid Lei Luo's trick. And just as he was dodging, Daruda sent a message to Otsutsuki Sishuin in a secret way. As long as she persists for a while, Otsutsuki Seizan should be able to arrive. Boom! Lei Luo's laser cannon bombarded the position where Daruda was just now, directly blasting a large pit on the ground, and the soil in the pit was carbonized into a crystal-like existence under the high temperature of the laser cannon. Daruda looked at the scene in the pit for a while and was afraid. If he was directly hit, it would be evaporated in an instant. Even if it is his own core, it is estimated that he cannot withstand this trick. That's right, Daruda's body has been completely transformed, and her core is hidden in the drone in her back, just like Sasori of the Red Sand back then. As long as the core is not damaged, she can ability to replace the body to regenerate. Lei Luo looked at Daruda, who appeared in another place, stepped directly into the void, stepped out again and came to Daruda. For so many years, Lei Luo has completely mastered the profound meaning of void walk. Space nodes are everywhere for Lei Luo, and he can appear anywhere within the range of void walk at any time. It's like instinct. Looking at Lei Luo appearing in front of him, Daruda's pupils suddenly enlarged, chakra surged, his hands instantly turned into fort-like existences, and when he raised his hand, 2 missiles blasted towards Lei Luo. Your attack is really far worse than that of Nagato's Shira Road. 9 Tomo Rinnegan in Lei Luo's shedding cave turned, and the missile that flew in front of Lei Luo was directly absorbed into the space in the Imperial Palace. Then, Lei Luo swung the knife and slashed towards Daruda. Breath of Water *8 style *Takipot. Daruda was directly split in half by Lei Luo from top to bottom, and blood spilled on the ground. I have to say that this scientific transformation still has certain advantages. The transformed human body is still flesh and blood like a real body, not a puppet. At this moment, Daruda's body, which was cut open by Lei Luo, squirmed for a while, and a drone broke out, and then flew swayingly. The core of Daruda is hidden in this drone. Do you think I'm a fool? You want to run away just like that? Lei Luo was speechless as he looked at the shaking drone. Could it be that there is no brain in the core of Daruda, as if he has lost his mind? Just when Lei Luo was about to shoot down the drone with a knife, a figure appeared in front of Lei Luo, took the knife from Lei Luo, and held the drone in his hand. It seems that Daruda is not losing her mind, but knows that someone has come to save her. Lei Luo looked at the person in front of him, and saw that he was wearing a black cloak, his hair gathered on the top of his head, a long braid at the back of his head, and a very special mark on his chin. He wears yui-colored items resembling bracers on his neck and wrists, a black crystal on his abdomen, a yui-colored belt around his waist, and yui-colored earrings on his ears. Then Lei Luo watched the drone disappear into the hands of the person in front of him instantly. Your Excellency, could you give me a face and spare my disobedient subordinate? Only the person before the meeting said lightly, like a gentleman. Lei Luo smiled slightly and said loudly, since your Excellency has spoken, I can also give you a face. But won't you give me some compensation? Oh, no problem, the man replied. I don't know what you want. Lei Luo's eyes narrowed, and his voice became cold. Naturally, it is a life change. If you want to save your subordinate's life, then use your life for it. Otsutsuki Jigen. Lei Luo recognized Otsutsuki Sishuan when he appeared, because Lei Luo had already sensed the distinctive chakra aura in Otsutsuki Sishuan's body. It seems that this Seizon really has a 10 tails in his body, and I don't know where he got it. Maybe it was from the Otsutsuki family that year. When Otsutsuki Seizon heard Lei Luo call out his name, his expression turned cold, and the murderous aura filled his body. I didn't expect your Excellency to know my name, so how do you address it? Otsutsuki Seizon said coldly. Lei Luo seemed to have no sense of Otsutsuki Seizon's killing intent, and still had a gentle smile on his face. Lei Luo ignored Otsutsuki Sishuan at all, but turned his head to Namikaze Minato and said, Minato, go back first, then leave it to me. Namikaze Minato also felt Otsutsuki Seizon's murderous aura, but he believed in Lei Luo's strength, nodded towards Lei Luo and disappeared. After watching Namikaze Minato leave, Lei Luo opened his mouth and replied to Otsutsuki Seizon. After so many years, you must have heard my name. My name is Lei Luo. Chapter 239-Fight Sishuan. God Buddha Lei Luo. When Otsutsuki Seizon heard Lei Luo's words, his pupils shrank suddenly, and then returned to normal. Although Lei Luo single-handedly ended the Fourth Ninja World War and subdued Kagaya, Otsutsuki Seizon did not feel that he would be much weaker than Lei Luo. After all, Kagaya just got rid of the seal at the beginning, and his strength must not have recovered to the peak, but he is in the strongest state now. Then Otsutsuki Seizon said lightly to Lei Luo, it turned out to be the first-generation chairman. When he spoke, the chakra on Otsutsuki Seizon's body began to surge, and the blue-black curse spread from the wedge of the lower jaw and spread to the whole body. Although it's you, it's impossible for me to capture it. As soon as the words fell, a violent momentum burst out from Seizon's body. Lei Luo didn't panic at all, looked at Seizon's current state with great interest, and said, "Very good momentum, I hope you can let me do some exercise and be able to hold on longer." Otsutsuki Seizon shook his cloak behind him and said to Lei Luo, "Don't worry, I won't let you down." Then he rushed towards Lei Luo directly. Boom! Lei Luo grabbed the fist that Sishuan slammed towards him. A strong shock wave spread from the place where the fists collided, and the air wave drove the cloak behind Sishuan to shake continuously. Nice power, but that's not enough. Lei Luo looked directly into Otsutsuki Seizon's eyes, and there was still a smile on the corner of his mouth. But this smile was full of ridicule in Otsutsuki Sishuan's eyes, which made Otsutsuki Sishuan angry. "Don't worry, Your Excellency Lei Luo, this is just a warm-up." Otsutsuki Seizon retreated sharply, and then attacked Lei Luo again. Boom, boom, boom. Lei Luo did not dodge or evade. The two of them fought against each other with dozens of physical techniques. However, Seizon still underestimated Lei Luo's physical techniques. So many attacks were easily stopped by Lei Luo. Nothing has changed. When there was a sound of gold and iron clashing, and I don't know when a black stick appeared in Otsutsuki Seizon's hand, but it was still blocked by Lei Luo with higher Inmaru. "Oh, want to play vagina?" Lei Luo said with a hint of sarcasm. "This black stick Lei Luo is very familiar. This thing is made of yin and yang escape. Rinnegan's outer power is housed in it, which can seal the acupoints of the opponent's chakra practice and disturb his chakra. If this is accidentally stabbed, it is not a joke. Your Excellency Lei Luo is joking. I'm tired of this physical art. Shouldn't I try weapons?" Otsutsuki Seizon replied lightly. The words of the two did not fight on the surface, but they have been fighting secretly. As soon as he finished speaking, Otsutsuki Seizon threw several pegs towards Lei Luo with a flick of his hand. This peg is an item similar to a black rod. Like the black rod, it is made by yin-yang escape technique. Inserting it into the opponent's body can not only block the opponent's chakra acupuncture point, but also absorb the opponent's chakra. The pegs were big and small, and they headed down towards Lei Luo. "Don't take this kind of gadget out to shame," Lei Luo said, but he didn't underestimate these pegs at all. After all, if Otsutsuki Sishuan could use it to deal with him, it was definitely not an easy thing. Breath of water *away *tide. Higher Inmaru was danced by Lei Luo into the sky with sword shadows, and each sword shadow corresponds to the position of each peg. The peg was easily blocked by Lei Luo. Otsutsuki Seizon snorted coldly, knowing that Lei Luo was absolutely helpless in his current state, and then manipulated the chakra in his body to trigger the power of wedge, again, entering state 2. A sharp horn similar to the other Otsutsuki clan popped out from the top of Otsutsuki Seizon's head. Now Seizon looks like the Otsutsuki clan. "Your Excellency Lei Luo, be careful." Otsutsuki Seizon's voice sounded, and his body disappeared in place, almost twice as fast as in the previous state. "Haha, it's interesting. Then let you see some of my power too." Lei Luo, who only turned on the sage mode, once again activated the power of the human body in the form of the Buddha, and the 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan pupil power in the Shenton cave continued to pour out, which once again activated the solar energy in the sky and used the great sun Tathagata. The current Lei Luo is several feet tall, and there is a golden wheel with the character, swastika, behind him. Otsutsuki Seizon kicked Lei Luo, but it didn't have any effect on Lei Luo. Lei Luo, who was in a state of God and Buddha, looked down at Otsutsuki Sishuan on the ground. His eyes were full of coldness, and he patted Sishuan with his backhand. Senpo, Sage Art, Shockwave. This move can already be described as the Tathagata's palm. For Otsutsuki Sishuan, Lei Luo huge palm fell from the sky, with a violent pressure, making him feel that his body was a little difficult to move. But Otsutsuki Jizan is also capable of time and space ninjutsu. Space Shuttle. A black hole like Uzumaki appeared beside Otsutsuki Sishuan. Otsutsuki Sishuan walked in with difficulty, just dodging the palm of Lei Luo. Boom! A violent shock wave spread, and countless innocent trees in the mountains and forests in the distance suffered. When Lei Luo raised his hand, there was only a huge palm print left on the ground. The soil in the palm print was compacted so hard that it was probably much harder than a stone. Otsutsuki Sison's figure appeared in the air, and after looking at the palm print on the ground for a while, he was afraid, even in his current state, if he stubbornly took a palm, it is estimated that he would be crippled if he didn't die. Then we can only use its power. I hope this body can hold up. Otsutsuki Sison thought to himself. That's right, the current body is just a container for him. Back then, his body was devastated after being seriously injured. In order to save his life, he condensed all his energy and consciousness through secret techniques to form a wedge. The original 10 tails in his body were hidden in a space by him, and he only absorbed part of the 10 tails, power through the wedge. Originally, the current strength of the shell organization had not yet come out, but he did not expect his newly cultivated container to escape. This made him have to send someone out to look for it, but he did not expect that the actions of the shell organization were discovered by Lei Luo so quickly. The next moment, Otsutsuki Sison directly triggered the power of the 10 tails in the wedge, and entered the 10 tails tail beast coat mode. Feeling the power that filled his body, Otsutsuki Sison was not so happy, because he also felt the pressure from this body. It is estimated that it won't last for too long, and it must be resolved quickly. Otsutsuki Sison's eyes turned cold, and he directly attacked Lei Luo, who was in a state of God and Buddha. Chapter 240-sorry, I'm undercover. Unknown journey. Coffin. Otsutsuki Sison's chakra poured out frantically, and a huge black container like a teapot appeared in front of Sison. Then, under the control of Sison, he instantly appeared on top of Lei Luo's head and shrouded Lei Luo's head. Lei Luo sensed the black container on his head and sensed a familiar aura. This is a seal. Now that he knew what it was, Lei Luo couldn't just pick it up stupidly. Void walk. Lei Luo took a step and disappeared directly on the spot. The huge black container was completely empty. However, Otsutsuki Sison directly aimed at the figure of Lei Luo who had just appeared and condensed-tailed beast bomb. Lei Luo's face changed. Although he is in a very strong state, it is still a bit reluctant to fight against 10 tails tailed beast bomb. Now he has to use Godzilla's power. Then Lei Luo directly stimulated Godzilla's power in his heart and entered Godzilla's coat mode. The huge golden Buddha was covered with a ferocious and mighty armor, and the spikes on it flashed with a cold light. Then Lei Luo also directly condensed atomic jade, and Lei Luo's condensing speed was obviously faster than that of Otsutsuki Sison. When Otsutsuki Sishuan's 10 tails tailed beast bomb shot out, Lei Luo's atomic jade also spit out and rammed directly towards the 10 tails tailed beast bomb. Boom! Lei Luo's atomic jade and Sison's 10 tails tailed beast bomb slammed into each other hard, and then exploded in an instant. A shock wave spread with strong wind pressure, the space was distorted, and fierce light filled the field of vision. Senpo, Sage Art, Light Escape, Golden Light Shield. Lei Luo ran chakra, and instantly a golden light barrier appeared in front of Lei Luo, resisting the power of the shock wave. After a long time, the smoke cleared, and Lei Luo found that the entire island of the Land of Vortex seemed to have been washed by missiles and turned into a bad mess. On the other side, Otsutsuki Sison also appeared in Lei Luo's field of vision, and it seemed that he was not seriously injured. But in fact, now Otsutsuki Sison's body has reached the limit. Just when 10 tails tailed beast bomb and atomic jade were banging, Sison wanted to take the opportunity to leave. However, the shock wave was too violent, and the space was fluctuating. The danger of using space ninjutsu was too great, and Seizon did not dare to take this risk. As expected of the first-generation chairman, Your Excellency Lei Luo, although you are very strong, if I want to leave, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep me. Otsutsuki Sishuan said a cruel word and was about to leave. Space Uzumaki instantly appeared beside Sishuan. Now he must find the existence of the container immediately, otherwise if the container shatters, he is really dead. He had to shift his consciousness into the wedge of the new container. But just as Seizon stepped into the space Uzumaki, Lei Luo also stepped forward and disappeared. When Otsutsuki Seizon reappeared, he came directly to the layman Guo Shin. Guoxin layman, have you found the location of the tool? Seizon asked the Guoxin layman. Layman Guoxin didn't answer, because he found a figure behind Seizon. It was Lei Luo who followed through the void. The moment Lei Luo appeared, Seizon also noticed Lei Luo's breath, turned his head and looked at Lei Luo biting Kiba and said, "You bastard, really haunted." Then he said to the layman Guoxin beside him, "Go on, layman Guoxin, go and stop him for me." But at this moment, Seizon felt a pain in his heart, and found that a hand had passed through his heart. It was the Guoxin layman beside him who took the shot. Why? Layman Guoxin took off the iron mask on his face, revealing a face that Lei Luo was very familiar with. Seizon heard layman Guo Shin say a word indifferently. "Sorry, I'm undercover." Lei Luo looked at layman Guoxin and said with a smile, "It's been a long time, Mr. Jiraiya." That's right, the face hidden under the iron mask is Jiraiya. Since the Fourth Ninja War, Jiraiya left Konoha to travel the ninja world, and there has been little news for so many years. Unexpectedly, it turned out that Jiraiya hid her identity and joined the shell organization to go undercover. Otsutsuki Jigen's pupils gradually dilated, and his body fell weakly. Without the new container, he could no longer survive. Wedge on Otsutsuki Sishuan's face also gradually dissipated, eventually losing his breath in this world. Lei Luo looked at the dead Otsutsuki Seizon and sighed, then said to Jiraiya, "Master Jiraiya, you have been in the shell organization for so many years, you should know the information about the remaining members of the shell organization." Jiraiya nodded, as if relieved, exuding a sense of relief. Then he turned to Lei Luo and replied, "That's right, there is only one Amato left in the core member of the shell organization. He completed the scientific ninja tools and human body transformation of the shell organization. As for the others, they are all peripheral members." Lei Luo nodded, and then replied, "Then Mr. Jiraiya, you can go back with me, and tell Minato all the information about these people. The Anbu of Minato should be enough for the remaining people." Jiraiya nodded. She had been tired for so many years, it was time to take a good rest, and she would not go out this time. Lei Luo turned around and took the lead in the direction of the original Konoha village, now the Konoha College. Time flies by like a white horse. In the state where the core members of this shell organization have been eliminated, the remaining peripheral members can't make any waves. Oh, no, this core member still left one person, leaving Amato. It's a pity that those scientific researches and technologies of Amato disappeared like this, and he joined the shell organization only because the shell organization could provide him with enough experimental materials and funds. After conquering Amato, the future development of the ninja world and the country of Wano will get better and better. Wano Country, Konoha College, Lei Luo home. Lei Luo-kun, have you decided yet? Kagaya asked, looking at Lei Luo. Lei Luo stroked Kagaya's cheek and said, "Now there is nothing in the ninja world that can threaten you, it's time for me to go out and see other worlds. Don't worry, you and I are both immortal, and I will come back one day in the future." Now that everything has been settled, Lei Luo has finally decided to use the random world pass that has been kept for many years. Kagaya looked into Lei Luo's eyes, knowing that Lei Luo had indeed made up his mind, opened his mouth, and finally only spit out, "Okay." Lei Luo took out the random world pass from the system space and asked the system in his mind. System, can this pass only be used by myself? Can I bring people? The system replied flatly. I'm sorry, host, this pass is not enough to support 2 people through the time-space tunnel, it can only be used by yourself. Well, that's all there is to it. Lei Luo looked at Kagaya, and then directly used the random world pass in his hand. The random world pass floated up from Lei Luo's hands, then shattered into bits of fluorescent light, and finally condensed into a door of light. After the light gate is a time passage leading to a random world. Lei Luo didn't bother anymore, and as soon as he bit Kiba, he stepped directly into the door of light. An unknown journey awaits ahead. Author's digression. First of all, I wish all readers a happy new year. This year's New Year's Eve, don't forget to eat dumplings. The hard-working author Kun is in Hubei and is considered to be under house arrest. He can't go anywhere. Let's all have a good new year. The Hokage volume of this book has come to an end, but Lei Luo's journey is certainly not over. As for what the next volume will talk about, I also asked the author Kun to sell it. I don't know if you have any good ideas, you can say them in the comment area, the author Kun will consider it as appropriate. Of course, another book will continue to be updated, and I hope you readers will continue to support it. See you next year.